point
Oh God.
at the
Oh,
start.
did you write someone's name on your shirt on your?
Oh
on
yeah,
your
yeah.
side
We
too?
had
You were writing subs.
we had name subs.
Whoa!
Yeah. This was happening for our whole first boss.
This is what the Warriors need. This is what Warriors need.
So I had to bug report and say my main tank is flying around in Karazhan every time he jumps. Hey guys, just a quick note before the podcast starts. There are big segments where we talk about raid encounters in Karazhan, the Gruul fight, where we're actually looking at boss fight encounters as they happen. So if you are an audio listener on Spotify, on iTunes, on the Google Store, another podcast app, you may want to hop on the YouTube version and watch it here on YouTube because it's a lot more visual of a segment. You may not understand what we're talking about if you're not actually seeing the video as it happens. All right, so take care. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. And as always, if you want to catch me live, I stream most days of the week at twitch.tv/snowme. You can even watch the podcast live there as well. So I hope you guys enjoy the podcast and have a good rest of your day. All right, guys, welcome to Prepared TBC Weekly Breakdown. This is episode 6, 7? You know what? I'm just not gonna say episode numbers anymore. We'll just say welcome to Prepared. This week is your TBC breakdown, and we got a lot of stuff to cover this week. It's been a busy week. It's been Karazhan, so today we're gonna cover TBC beta raid testing, the Karazhan Gruul. Today is mag. Actually, right after the podcast, I'll be going on and doing mag. We're gonna be talking about Badge of Justice dropping in Kara. We have some confirmation on that. Actually, I saw a tweet regarding whether that's supposed to be in there or not, but I think it's a good discussion to have whether the badges should be dropping or not anyway. Then we're going to do a quick boss-by-boss look over of Karazhan. I'm going to use Zirene's VOD because, trust me, you guys do not want me to use my VOD, which was 7 hours long, and I was in a hot tub. Oh,
wait. No.
Yeah, well, maybe actually some people actually want to use that one, but...
Yeah, I think there's a lot to go in there.
And after the boss by boss breakdown, we're gonna cover. I think melee performance has been interesting so far as well, as far as how melees have been performing in Karazhan and Gruul. Then there's some blacksmith changes. So unfortunate for Zirene's melee comp. Maybe they were listening and they saw Zirene's comp is too good and they need to nerf it, so they put these blacksmith changes in place. I'm sure that's what happened.
Oh yeah.
And there's some data mine info as far as achievements possibly being added to Classic WoW as well, which is an interesting topic to discuss. But yeah, let's get started. Zirene, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. You know, I went to bed pretty late last night, woke up, and that's why like my eyes are red, because one, I was waking up, and two, taking a shower for some reason. I always I don't know. I guess I'm somebody who like washes very aggressively, especially their face. So I guess I like always look like I'm high afterwards, you know. So yeah, I'm not high when I talk about like melee comps and stuff like that. I swear to God, it's just open.
It all makes sense now. It all makes sense now.
Holy shit! Yeah, no, I'm good though, man. It's been interesting testing and trying different things out too. Like, I think so far I've tried Warrior, Holy Paladin, and Elemental Shaman. So I have a very interesting like kind of takes on all of those. So
yeah, it's been I saw you did what, like 3 Karazhans. Did you finish the third one? I popped in your stream and saw you were halfway through like the second one.
I did 2 Karazhans. The third one I didn't I didn't get rolling or anything like that, but my raid did 3 of them, and the second one like failed horribly, and then the 2 that I were in like went really smoothly. So I didn't get to see exactly what was happening in those other ones that was making him struggle.
Oh,
people were saying
I may have some ideas.
Some people were saying it was a lot of like tanks having to know what the hell they're doing, like really intensely. So I don't know.
All right, but yeah, wait. We skipped everyone's favorite talk. Zirene, what desk are you using? And any fancy?
I'm using some like
IKEA desk.
No, it's some like house desk I got from somebody in LA that was like $80 because they don't have room for it anymore. That happens a lot in like LA, especially in the tech industry. People are like giving away stuff. I have a gigantic red beanbag in my living room that's called a love sack, and it's like a $1,400 beanbag that I got for like $800 because somebody couldn't fit it anymore, and I know why they couldn't fit it. It is absolutely enormous.
Wait, $800 for a beanbag?
Oh yeah. If you go to like a Love Sack, I think is what it's called. It's a beanbag company. Lovesac SAC, and you can like look at the sacks. You guys, this is the sack talk now. You can talking about the sacks, and you go there, and it's just like, okay, so what are these? These are like, what's a full set? And then they have these gigantic, enormous bean bags that just, they're very comfy. By the way, they're like incredibly comfy. Yeah, and there's like it's called the big one. It's $1,500.
Jesus Christ.
And then there's the super sack and the movie stack. These things are very comfy, though, by the way. Very comfy. And they're very, very big. So I don't know why. I didn't want a beanbag, but I saw that it was like half the price. And I was like, okay, I'll get that. But it's enormous. It's actually super cool. So,
oh God, the half the price, man. That's how they get you with the Steam sales. Every time there's a Steam sale, right? You just buy like 5 games. You will never play those 5 games, but it's half price. How can you miss on these amazing deals with the Steam sales, man?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's the thing too, is like when I'm always hesitant about sales in general, because if something is half off, you're just like, so why is it half off? Like, can you not move these off the shelf fast enough and you want to get rid of them, or you want to trick people into it? This happened the other day with my friend and I when we were like having bro night, and we were like, you know what? Do you want to get the Truly lemonades, or do you want to get the half off like store brand Truly seltzers? And I was like, kind of want to go with the Truly lemonades. He's like, but these are half off. So we went with those, and they were garbage. And I was like, exactly. They were half off for a reason, because they can't compete with the actual product there. And so they had to move them off the shelf. So when you're getting something from a friend or something that's like not even used very much, and they're like, I just can't fit it in my new apartment and I'm moving, those are probably the best deals you're going to get, because it's definitely worth it. They just don't want to go through the hassle of actually selling it, right? So, and they want to move it quickly. So those are usually the best sales. So think about when something's on sale, like, why is it on sale, kind of thing. So
all right, nice. So that was beanbag and sack talk on the TBC podcast. Next week, we're really covering the range of opener topics here on the TBC.
Yeah, next
podcast.
we're talking about next we'll talk about bookshelves, which I see you are actually very.
Oh yeah, I know about the bookshelves. Yeah. All right.
Do you have a wait a second? Do you have a Venusaur and a Charizard behind you?
That is a Venusaur and a Charizard, and I have a Squirtle next to me as well.
Oh shit! You keep him real close. Where's he?
Oh yeah, he's right here. Wait, we got him right here. Yeah, we got the Squirtle. Not Squirtle, the Blastoise. Yeah, as well.
Yeah. I was like, I got my Blastoise right there. He's by my little thing that projects like a galaxy onto the ceiling. Oh shoot! He's my favorite. So
yeah, I got those from Japan, actually, from the Pokemon store in Japan. Wow. Yeah, every time when I went there. And then I had to spend like $200 online for Charizard, but let's not talk about that, because Charizard was really hard to find.
Jesus. Everybody seems to really love Charizard. I don't know what it is.
I think it's because I need to reach my childhood dream where I never got a Charizard properly.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, what?
I never got the Charizard properly in the cards. I traded so hard, and the only Charizard I got was a super scuffed Charizard from my friend, which I over traded for. So that's okay. When this podcast makes it big and we get sponsors, I'm gonna go buy a nice Charizard card and frame it somewhere.
Oh man.
All right. TBC talk.
Yeah. We can actually start the podcast here.
Okay. Yeah. Start recording now. So the TBC raids are in. Karazhan Gruul, Mag today. What are your initial thoughts, Zirene?
My initial thoughts are these are pretty much how I remember them being. And for me, there hasn't really been much of a surprise, because like I played back in the day in like a top guild, Warfront and Vicious Cycle, and these were not difficult. I remember Karazhan being like Uber's plus, not like a true raid. I remember it being a little hard at the start, and people like not being able to exactly figure out how to do Nightbane, because there's like some quest chain you had to do before you could even get the urn. So obviously you won't be clearing it like day one the way that we have been. But the templates at first I thought I'll just go through kind of my experience step by step.
Right.
First it was the templates. I was like, oh God, do you guys even play your own fucking game? Because these were so bad. They're like, the templates were bad. Like I logged into the Holy Paladin and I had 300 healing. And everything was like, you're supposed to be red or prot. And I was like, what is this? And so my guild's actually yelling at me, like, get in the instance. What are you doing? We're pulling trash already. I'm like, just 5 more minutes, guys. And I'm running around. And by the end of it, I have 1400 healing as a paladin. Like, I had to run around to all the rep vendors and stuff like that. And they're already polling and shit. And so I made, I made another character afterwards, after we finished that Karazhan. I went and made a warrior and just geared that up completely before we did the next run while the second raid was finishing up. And that warrior had 17k HP when it was buffed. So I was like 15k unbuffed. So you could get your HP up really, really high. And I was actually surprised by that with warriors. So I'm not sure if these templates were slightly better than the gear you'll actually have, which I think is probably what will happen. Because I don't think everybody will have this kind of gear for the specs that, things were made for. You're probably going to have worse gear than this going into Kara. But at least it'll be for the spec that you have.
The hunter ones were decent though. I heard the hunter template was really good. Like they actually got stuff that you wanted on the hunter template.
Yeah, so like the rogue template and the hunter template didn't seem too far off. It's just the ones that are like hybrid classes. I think the elemental shaman one is also really good. Like elemental shaman is basically you change like 2 pieces of gear, your weapon, you get the better weapon off of rep, and then like one of your trinkets. But otherwise, you basically hit cap, you get the spell pen you need, the 24 or whatever, off of like a cloak enchant and like one other thing, and you're like completely good to go. So I think elemental shamans are very, very close to what they need to be, and like a few other DPS classes. The hunter one, did the hunters start with their dungeon set that has the armor pen on it?
They got the dungeon set. Yeah, I don't know if the guy putting it in was a hunter or something, because it seems like they got set up pretty well.
Well, the thing is that the hunters just use their dungeon set until they're full T5. Like if you get like 2 pieces of T5, you don't even break your dungeon set. Your dungeon set doesn't get broken until you're full Tempest Keep Serpentrine Cavern gear, or you're moving into Black Temple or Highjaw Black Temple, because it's 600 armor pen on kill command for 15 seconds, and it's a 5-second cooldown on kill command. So you basically get permanent 600 armor penetration, and that's why hunters are like so good at the start of the game too. And it's honestly like I totally get why these classes are like really easily accessible and why they do so much damage right off the bat. But I was not really shocked by anything except that like there was no really good setup for a lot of melee classes like warriors. I think everybody's gear has like defense on it, and even if you tried your hardest to like swap things around, you're still using like defense gear because it's basically your tier set. So you're losing a lot of stat budget that would be in crit hit, which are very, very big for them. But overall, like I wasn't too shocked by what went down in Karazhan damage wise. Like the expectation of hunters and warlocks on top absolutely, still holds true. The next thing down that did surprise me was elemental shamans were better than I thought they would be. And that's why I rolled one, because I like want to try that out today, especially on single target, because their single target DPS seems to be around 1200 to 1400, and then it just goes up with multi-target with chain lightning. And that's actually really high at this point in the game.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised by that. So the fact they can hit cap and they get like 30% crit, they don't become as monogated as they used to be. And I'm excited for that too. I'm excited for that actually a lot. Yeah. But yeah, I think shamans are going to be really fun to play. And I think that's probably the biggest surprise to me, is that both enhancement and elemental seem to be good.
Yeah, enhancement seemed. I was interested to see enhancement actually do pretty good when we were doing Karazhan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just the fact they get Wind Fury on both their weapons, right? And they can hit for like 5 times or 6 times if they both proc. So there's a lot of things in there that really help them out. And they just seem overall to be like, pretty good. And I think so people will want to play those 2 classes a little more than they wanted to before. I know I want to roll in an elemental shaman now. I did, and I was talking to you about it, like playing it in was it Arasaka? And it's like it seems like the right choice. Like I actually think it is pretty fun. So yeah, Karazhan, I didn't think it was hard. I don't remember it being hard. I don't remember being stuck on it. Gruul, I don't remember that being hard. I remember that being pretty easy. And nothing's really surprised me. I think the only thing with like Magtheridon today is I remember back then people weren't as keen on how good warlocks were. And the more warlocks you have, the easier Magtheridon is, because there's things like banishes. You need to click a bunch of different imprisonment things for him. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but like I'm just going off of ancient fucking like remembrance here, so the strat might be completely wrong. I don't know. But the more warlocks you had for like banishes, the more warlocks you had for damage output, the more people you had for like clicking the things, you're going to be in a better spot. So I just remember Magtheridon is probably going to be easier today than it has been even in the past. So it'll actually be easier because people know these things and people are more keen on warlocks. So that's the expectation I have today of is Magtheridon is going to be easier than even my recollection of it. So
yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about all this raid stuff is literally right after our last podcast, they announced it. And this is literally everything that Zirene mentioned on the previous podcast where we're saying, oh, maybe they'll do templates and then they'll launch the raids. And I think it was, like an hour maybe after we finished the podcast, they literally started announcing, yeah, guys, template characters, raids. And yeah, man, I'm excited to do the raids and things, but at the same time, I still have the same fears as we went over last week, where we're gonna get hyped up for this, and then people are gonna realize, oh no, two more months till TBC, guys, and then the hype's gonna die down again, and people are gonna lose the initial hype that we have for these Karazhan and Mag and Gruul raids that we're doing right now.
Yeah, I kind of worry about that too. I think there's one guy. There's one guy who's like one of our top warriors in our guild. He's a guy who's like he's like top damage in our speedruns sometimes, and he's like really warrior elitist, and he uses ED still. He doesn't have like aggressive. He's using ED THC, and he was like so demoralized and sad after Gruul. He was like, I'm just a tank class. I mean, you know, if I was going to tank, I would like to know that coming into it. You know, I'm just like I don't do any damage. I might as well just be tanking. And I was like, oh God, Draven, are you okay, man? Like, dude, you need to chill. He's like, I don't even know if I'm gonna play TBC at this point, dude. Like, and all the warlocks are posting shit that's like the stages of grief, and they're like circling which one he's at. Like, holy shit. Oh man. Yeah, because like I think a lot of warriors are gonna feel like their class is really bad right now. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, your class is bad right now. It gets better tier 5 and tier 6, like I've said before. But the other thing that surprised me was that going in and tanking. Now, my guild leader was saying that shield slam is bugged and shield block value is bugged right now and not giving you the right amount. But even when I looked at the gear, I'm like, there isn't a lot of shield block value on this. So bugs aside, my shield slam was like generating almost no threat. My devastate scales up to do threat, so it doesn't really like actually do a good snap aggro. Like if you're heroic striking and devastating, it feels wrong on pull, even if you shield slam and then devastate. Because devastate, you know, your first one's going to do less threat than your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, right?
Yeah.
So warrior snap aggro is pretty bad. Whereas I was playing with Thade, and Thade would walk in as a bear, and he would mangle something and have like 4K threat on it immediately. Whereas I would like devastate, shield slam something, and have like 2K threat. Or shield slam heroic strike and have like 2.5. So it was really interesting how like bear threat seems like way fucking better than warrior threat. And I don't know if it's bugged or what, but somebody was telling me yesterday, some guy from one of the better guilds on Fairlina, Suop, they're like number 3 now. They were number 2. He was telling me that it looks like Fury Prot is going to be the way to go again at the start. Into like Defiance and take Bloodthirst, because Flurry's too important for one-handing and swinging Heroic Strike, because it felt like to them Heroic Strike was more threat than actually using like Devastate. So having more frequency of Heroic Strikes felt like it was more threat. So I have to test that. I don't know if I'll be able to test that today on like Magtheridon, but I do need to test that because he was saying that Flurry is just too valuable and your crit chance still is pretty high at this point in the game. Yeah. So you aren't like full in on not critting and being like 5% crit at this point. So we'll see. But if this holds up, like bears are probably going to be your main tanks, right? Bears are probably going to be your main tanks, and you'll probably have a warrior off tank for, I would say your warrior off tank is probably going to be like some type of fury like / arms hybrid. And your main job on boss fights that are single target is to damage. And then during periods where your tank is at risk, you slap a shield on and you intervene the main tank, which is something that I think people don't recognize the value in. Like during the phase where, you know, Gruul silences like for 4 seconds, right?
Yeah.
That's where you intervene the main tank. You take an 8K hit for him and you're going to stay up, right? So like the biggest threat there is that nobody can heal him. People didn't get the right hots on him. He's going to die later in the fight. You just take an 8K, 9K hit for him and then he'll be completely fine. And you only take 1 hit with intervene, right? So there's things like that you can do as a warrior to really kind of off tank things and feel like you're actually doing your job. So there's cool like that. There's things like that too. So for warrior issues tested so far, what is this? GitHub, Meiji,
Oh,
TBC,
that's
warrior.
Meiji. Yeah, he tests out a lot of. He has a GitHub of all the war issues and things. But I mean, the interesting thing about beta, at least for testing things, has been sometimes it's just really hard to tell whether something's intended or something is a bug. And that's the tricky part, is because sometimes we don't have a frame of reference, and then you're digging back into old TBC videos and things to try to see what matches up. I was having this discussion with Tetsu the other day because he was in the chat, and we were talking about the haste changes as well, where we're like, is this supposed to stack? Is this not supposed to stack? I don't know.
This looks like a Jira ticket. This looks like this is this looks like almost like the program that you would use for bugs at like, Riot or like QA. Jira, it's like, what is going on here? Like, what's this one? Like, oh, number 1. What? Jesus Christ. This is a lot of these are research, and then some of them are labeled as bugs. So not all of these.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen so people can see.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this is Meiji. He runs this GitHub thing that tries to go through all the warriors are the most prolific testers I've seen from what my experience. Fight Club and warriors in general, they test the most stuff.
Well, warrior is also the most popular class, especially in classic, right? By like a good margin.
Yeah. So yeah, this is just the warriors testing a lot of stuff. It's funny, even the rogues get a lot of the data from the warrior Discord because sometimes we share similar weapons. And a lot of times it's like, should we test a proc chance on this, guys? It's okay. Warrior Discord already did it. We'll just check over there and grab their numbers.
Yeah, this seems interesting. I'm not sure how. Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at this. So it does seem that Warrior does have some bugs. Don't know if it's threat related or not, but at the same time, it's got me wondering what the meta will be for them. It's probably fast weapon heroic striking. Don't know if it's going to be Bloodthirst or Shield Slam, and I don't know if like you'll be even using Devastate, because Devastate does seem good, but it's just doesn't seem good enough, right? And that's the thing here that I'm like, even though it does 35% of your weapon damage, you're using a fast weapon, and it's not providing much threat at all. So I'm not sure. I'm struggling to figure out what's going on with it and if it's accurate or not, because it is very, very different than the threat generation right now on live. Not just because you crit for a ton with like Bloodthirst, but even just like your heroic strikes or not even having world buffs, right? Like sometimes I die and I still have to hold aggro on thing number 2, right? On like off tanking, and I can do that. And here it's like you can't really do that. It seems really difficult to do, and you're just not getting any threat on anything. So people are saying like wait for 3 Sunders, and I'm like, yeah, it kind of feels like this was all designed around wait for 3 Sunders once again, like back in the day. So I'm not sure. But yeah, I think Warriors are in an interesting spot where their role in the raid may shift, and they may not be main tanks, and Druids may do it right from the get-go. So we'll see.
I mean, the interesting thing about the raid testing so far is that I don't know how even the testing is, as far as like people are trying to get rough ideas of where the classes stand just from the raid testing we've done so far. But a lot of the templates don't match up perfectly, right? Like some classes scale better with gear, some don't need gear. Like I was having this discussion in Rogue Discord the other day, as would a naked hunter win, or would a rogue in phase 6 Bis win? Because the hunters almost they hit like their macro and they just do crazy amounts of damage sometimes. And it's some classes just don't even really need that much gear to pop off and do crazy damage, whereas others just need it. But as far as going back to the whole Karazhan stuff and the raid and my initial thoughts, I feel like it's in this weird place where, for some reason, I don't know if this is the influence of the private server community or what, but it seems like a lot of the private server guys are coming into this and saying, why is Karazhan so easy? They're coming in here with like a preset group of super experienced guys who have done Karazhan 5 billion times, perfect raid comms, everything like that, and they're just coming in and smashing Karazhan, and then they're making these long videos to the community saying, hey guys, Karazhan is way too easy. We need I don't know what's going on, but we need to bring back all the things. The bug with the 3 flares on a curator, we need that for every boss because that's the only way Karazhan is going to be fun. But
That was still easy though. Like we killed it so quickly. And didn't wipe. I didn't wipe to it either time in either of my raids because
yeah,
you just kill flares first. I think people who ignore flares, because here's the thing: is once you had gear and you went to after curator and you're like, we're clearing Karazhan for like the 50th time, you just have somebody off tank the flares and then you just AOE them down later. But here it's like just focus the flares. When you don't have gear, you're just supposed to focus the flares. It's like you aren't going for like speed or anything. You're just trying to down the boss correctly and get to the next one.
But so. Yeah, I'm just not sure why they expect it to be so hard. I feel like this has been an ongoing theme for all of beta is that the private server community expects something different almost than what is the traditional classic experience or the TBC experience, just because they're so used to these buffed values of HP and such on the bosses that they're just not expecting everything to be so face roll. But I think a lot of people are forgetting we're such better classes. I say this constantly. We're such better players now. The gear's better. The coordination's better. We have like Discord comms and things like that. That really just everything's better. Like everything's better. And I find it weird when people go in there with these perfectly formed comms, and try to compare that to the old TBC experience of Karazhan and say like, guys, this is easy. We need to buff this. Meanwhile, I did a 7-hour Karazhan clear. That was an interesting one. I got the full pug experience. My warrior was flying at one point. Wait, well, let me show you guys this. My warrior. Did you guys get this, by the way, Zirene? Was your warrior flying?
No.
Okay, so yeah, I'm in a buffed up, guys. So this is something that happened. But at one point,
God.
at the start.
Oh, did you write someone's name on your shirt on your?
Oh yeah. We had
writing subs.
we had
Whoa.
Yeah. This was happening for our whole first boss.
This is what the warriors need. This is what warriors need.
So I had to bug report and say my main tank is flying around in Karazhan every time he jumps. Literally just flying. Literally just flying around in Karazhan.
Wait, and he pulled the boss?
We were testing whether he could just solo pull the boss by flying over to the boss and then running over. Unfortunately, Stoops has literally no practice tanking, so he had no idea what was going on. But yeah, our warrior was flying, and it seems like that was an early bug.
Oh my god!
In that, and then there was a yellow message. I think like halfway through our Karazhan clear, there was a yellow message in the client or whatever that said, "Hey guys, yeah, we fixed the bug that warriors were flying." But yeah, up until that point, you can see he's just flying. We literally just had a flying warrior the entire time. It was actually made it harder because he would fly and lose aggro on everything on the ground.
Yeah, because it drops aggro like you do on a flying note.
So it actually made things really hard when he kept flying randomly.
No. Yeah, warriors can't hold threat, dude. Oh no, bro. That's so funny. Holy shit.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm not sure what people are expecting because the whole community seems very, very divided right now. Like half of them, like it seems like there's this big divide. Half of the people want harder cars and harder TBC and such, and the other half are just they're just fine. They're just Karazhan was never meant to be hard, etc., etc. But I kind of lean more on the Karazhan was never meant to be hard because I never remember it being hard, and I was a super just not great player back then. I was really young. I didn't know what I was doing half the time.
Yeah, it wasn't a hard instance. Like I said, it was like Uber's Plus with like raid bosses where they took things from like original vanilla WoW and they went, okay, these are mechanics and we should probably like introduce them to normal bosses instead of just make it like a tank and spank type thing. So I just remember it being Uber's Plus. You take 10 people in there, you can pug it. Whatever. Sometimes the duration of it was a little bit longer. Then pugs would want to stay, which was probably the hardest part of it. Was just a long instance for pugs. But yeah, no, I don't remember it being difficult at all. So for me, it's kind of the same experience that I had back then. And I know some people are like upset because I got a few messages where people were like, you're getting your way. Melee are actually still good. Blah blah blah. Like they were like, this isn't hard enough. Like they're gonna be fine. And of course, I agree with that because that was my recollection of it. But it's like people seem like pretty salty of the fact that this is not as hard as they remember it being. whether it's endless or any private server they were on, or back in the day. So I'm like, you can go in there with pretty much any composition and you can beat it as long as you just know the mechanics. And now that we have all the knowledge, like people, like you're saying, like should they make it harder? Even if they made it harder, I don't think for players like you and me it would be that difficult. But it's kind of the idea of once you have the knowledge, like if you ever play Dark Souls, you can beat that game naked, right? You can beat that game naked with the club. Like everything is dodgeable in that game. You just have to know what to do. So instead of gaining a bunch of like soul levels and being like, oh, I need better armor, I need better this, you can just beat it naked and not take a single hit because you understand what to do. And that's kind of like WoW is like, where some things are gear checks and DPS, but other things are you just need to know the mechanic and you'll take almost no damage in the fight, or you'll take minimal damage. So once you have the knowledge, everything is fine and you should be able to just clear stuff regardless of how long it takes. So making things more gear checky from a designer standpoint doesn't feel good. Even just like being like, let's beef the encounter's HP up, it doesn't really feel good, doesn't really feel like a good solution. And it's interesting that you say like people are saying it's much harder much easier, because there was one guy I saw that said like, welcome to TBC, the training wheels are off. And it was so funny to me because he was like he's like streamers like Asmongold and I think he's like Stay Safe and like Jokered didn't finish their Kara runs. Kara's not meant to be easy. Welcome to TBC. The training wheels are off. And I was like,
are we doing the same Karazhan here?
Well, I was also like, when were they supposed to be better than the average player? Like, wait, just holy moly. That's the mistake right there, is thinking that like those guys are like elite level players or speedrunners, except for like Jokered, who is actually a good player. So it's like, I don't know. This people seem up in arms about it. I'm kind of indifferent. Like I'm like, this is how I remember it. It's like people now, like back in the day, how many people killed KT? Like only like one guild per server, if that, had killed KT or had enough time to kill KT by the time Nax was done. Like almost nobody really cleared Nax. And like people are like, oh, you used to see like a Gressel and you'd be like, that guy fucks. Like that guy, look at him stand there in Ironforge, dude, because that's where everybody stood. It's like that guy in Ironforge right there, that guy fucks. That guy's cool. And now everybody has a Gressel. It's like, should it be harder so the gear's like more rewarding or less obtainable, so it's like rarer and people look cooler because they're the only people with those shoulders or with those weapons? Like, I don't think so, because I think if you make it harder, it's not staying true to how the game was. But
yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the thing that we reference a lot, where it's like the player base has changed. It's not the game. We've got the same game. It's just the player base has changed. We're too good now. The skill levels increase and we're just more prepared and such. And the thing I found really interesting as well was that there's a big difference in the level of tanking and healing as far as making the pug harder or easier. Because I had the true pug experience, and it was a 7-hour raid because we at the start we started with a tank that didn't know how to tank. We had Stoops tanking when he's a DPS warrior. He's never tanked in his life. I don't think he does any tanking at all. And that made it really, really hard. And then pulling, it was all the same standard things that pugs struggle with that made it harder. And it's just the fact that Karazhan was so long that we had to get replacements for people that just didn't set enough time out to do an entire Karazhan run. And I don't know, man. I just felt like Karazhan's exactly where I expect it to be. I don't expect it to be any crazier than it is now. I think, like you said, I feel like if they buff it, it's not going to really make a difference. People like you or me will probably still breeze through it if we go in with like a full guild group and such. I think the whole thing's just overblown. I think in general, people just need to stop comparing to private servers because the tuning there is completely different and the experience is going to be different. But I feel at the end of the day, people are forgetting that phase 1 was supposed to be a prep phase. Phase 1 is supposed to be like, we're coming into TBC, you guys got to get leveled up, you guys got to get prepped. This is kind of like your intro raids. Gruul is kind of like Onyxia. None of this is supposed to be a super, super challenging. We're not supposed to be going into phase 1 and doing Nax right away. This wasn't how TBC was supposed to be designed. And oh yeah, we're getting some breaking news now with a whole bunch of information being added. So apparently this just got posted, but the most interesting one is the Jewelcrafting and ring enchanting, guys.
Yes, that's the one that I was looking at.
Yes, look at this, guys. Wait, let me make this bigger. So profession requirements on ring enchants and jewel crafting. So no longer will you be juggling these professions. So for people that don't know, the super sweaty way of doing these things was they were gonna like pick up a temporary enchant to enchant your brand new rings, and then you would drop it and then swap back. You basically be juggling professions nonstop.
Yeah.
So they've decided that no, we don't want juggling professions. These are gonna be you're gonna have to keep the profession we want it, which I'm totally okay with. I know Tetsu wanted the sweaty swapping all the time, but I think both me and Zirene are on the this sucks and I don't want to do that train.
Well, it sucks I don't want to do that train was more like I'd rather have an enchanter be able to enchant my rings, not like do this. Like this, I don't like this personally. Like, so this just makes you go, okay, what's worth more? The jewel crafting slight increase with like these unique jewels, or 4 stats times 2 to my 2 rings, or leatherworking or engineering. So for me, this probably means I'm going to be engineering leatherworking on my tank for the tankatronic.
Ooh, you're going
goggles.
leatherworking. Interesting.
Well, I mean the drums, right? Like I think that's better for the beginning because what is it, 80 haste?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's 5%. Is better than 8 stats or 8 stats, 8 stamina, 8 agi. You know, it seems better than that, or even 9 if you include kings.
So you're going engineering for the sappers then, or
engineering for the sappers for AoE threat, but also for because you kind of suck at AoE threat as a warrior. AoE for the sappers, but also for the tankatronic goggles are better than T3. So when you go into like Kara, the first goggles that you get, not the epic ones, those ones are better. They have a lot more stamina on them. They have
really? I didn't know that.
They have a meta gem socket as well, which is better than T3 and Dreadnought already. So you use those, and then you upgrade those to the epic ones, which apparently will be available with T5. And you upgrade those, and then that's what you wear pretty much for the rest of the game, if I recall correctly. So I would be engineering for that, with engineering leatherworking.
Oh wait, did you see this next thing here?
Which one? The main hand
weapons,
one?
Yeah, weapons that will change from main hand only to one hand late in original Burning Crusade will be restored to the original version.
They're doing progressive. They seem to be doing a lot more progressive stuff where it's like these will be available at this time, right? As opposed to like these were, because it's 2.4.3, this is how things were in 2.4.3. So they're not doing the whole warriors are super good at the beginning of the expansion thing, just like in vanilla. It's instead like, oh, as the patches came, things changed, and so will the game, which exacerbates a problem that I was going to bring up later, but I think I'll bring up now, is I think class swapping in this game is going to be way more prevalent as things progress, because like warriors are really bad right now. People will probably abandon their warriors. They'll try to maybe pick them up again in tier 5 or tier 6. But I think what's also going to happen is people are going to be pushed to play certain classes. Like, I think that the game is not going to revolve around speedrunning for a lot of guilds, right? Like almost all the guilds, kind of like how it is now. But it will revolve around parsing. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I was in a raid yesterday where they took the shaman out of my group. The warlocks took the shaman out of my group and told them to use heroism in their group, and then put him back in my group, right? So they rotated heroisms on the warlock group. And I sat there and I was like, okay, so what's the point of me even trying to do damage? And then I slapped on a shield and just like intervened, right? And did that stuff for the tank. Because I was like, there's actually no point in you trying to do damage if people are not setting your group up for success. So what I think is going to happen is people are going to be playing certain classes or feel giga cucked, because if people are taking the shaman out of your group to like give their group heroism, you're obviously not going to win or parse in that fight, right? If they do that with like one group in particular. And if you're like an arcane mage who has like 2-piece tier 5 and you have these extra mana costs and you don't have a shadow priest in your group, you're going to be like, what's the point? If you're a warrior, a fury warrior who doesn't have a feral druid in your group alongside an enhancement shaman, and you're not getting heroisms, you're like, what's the point? So the synergies of the classes are basically equivalent to having world buffs in a sense, where if your groups are not getting what they need, you're kind of like, what's the point of me like really trying? Because obviously you're not going to parse. You're just there to kind of like swing at the bosses if you didn't have world buffs. And it actually feels really interesting because I'm not usually somebody who like feels a lack of motivation to play. I'm somebody who like finds how they fit in. Like I said, like once I realized I wasn't going to be able to do damage, I was like, okay, I'll just intervene. And so for me, it even felt demoralizing then, where I was like, I don't get to play my class, right? I have to play it a different way. I don't get to play it the way I want to play it. I have to play it a different way. So I'm interested to see what this does to, one, people's compositions overall, two, people's desire to parse, and three, what it does for raids in general, because people will probably re-roll or have to re-roll or feel like they have to re-roll. Like, for example, if I'm playing Warrior in a guild like mine right now, where everybody is really hyped on Warlocks, and basically everybody's going Warlock, then it's like, what's the point of playing Warrior? Why don't I just play Elemental Shaman, right? Because then I'm going to feel like I'm having more fun with my class. People are playing around me. People want me, all that stuff. So it ends up being really classist in a way, where if your class doesn't synergize with the comp, then it's like, just you're probably going to feel like you're going to be better off rolling something else. And that's why I strongly believe that there's going to be, instead of a composition that has like a little bit of everything, like, oh, here's your arms warrior, here's your feral druid, here's your enhancement shaman, and then here's like, you know, your shadow priest. I think you're just going to over index on one type of damage, whether it be physical or magical, because warlocks love other warlocks because it's more ISB uptime, right? It's more improved shadow bolt uptime. The more warlocks you have, the better they are. Right? The more shadow priests you have, the more things that can get dotted for those warlocks, right? The more shadow priests you have, the more mages like. And it just goes on and on. Whereas like you bring in Affliction Warlock, he's helping all the other warlocks, but he's not going to help the physical damage. Like they don't get anything out of him being there.
Yeah.
Or the Arms Warrior doesn't help like the 5 warlocks in your raid. So you're probably just going to over index or index highly on one type of damage, one or the other. Whereas like a physical composition, you're like, oh, we have our exposed armor rogue, we have our enhancement shaman, we have our feral druids, we have our Arms Warrior in here, we have our warlock for Curse of Wreck. Like you have all these people that are supportive of what you want to do. You have your survival hunter, right, which does nothing in a warlock composition. So I actually think you're probably going to go one or the other and stack those synergies, and then stack people who are going to use those synergies. Because otherwise, you just feel fucking useless and feel like a bitch for your raid.
You know, it's
right?
it's interesting that you bring that
really
up.
Weird
as well, because I was
somebody said in the chat, I think I'd rather quit. Yeah, and like that's the thing that I'm feeling is like some people are going to be like, my class, nobody's playing to it. I feel like a fish out of water here, and I feel like I've been abandoned and can't even do what I want to do. And then they're like, well, I can't parse. We're killing stuff, and I don't feel like I'm a part of it. Like people are either going to re-roll or find a new place to go, and it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah,
so I don't know what's going to happen.
I feel that your comp. I feel this makes the comp that your guild decides on going even more important. I don't think they necessarily, if they're not hardcore, I don't feel they have to necessarily stack one or the other class. But to talk about your point where you were talking about the about feeling like you need like that composition to perform. Like I did Gruul in it was just like a streamer raid. So this was like a streamer raid basically that we did. So we didn't have like a good comp or anything. It was literally just like, what do the people want to play? We'll invite them. So you can see we literally did Gruul with 4 rogues in here. And it was just pretty much whatever people want to play, they can play. And it was almost like a who's who of rogue streamers, because you have like Peo there, Savix there, I was there, Snuts was there as well. And when other people are there on the same class as well, it makes you super competitive, because I'm pretty sure both me and Peo said at one point in stream, like, I haven't improved exposed armor. Should I be exposed armoring? But if I expose armor, then I'm the guy that looks bad on stream while everyone else is doing more DPS than me. So now I think in the end, none of us exposed armor, even though we all had exposed armor. But yeah. It adds to the fact where it's very noticeable now. Because I think on the first part of Gruul, on the mini boss before you get to actual Gruul, he I think I wasn't in the shaman group at first, and I could notice the difference. Like, oh man, like these guys are actually pulling away from me. And then like later when we put like me, Peos, Nuts, Savix all in the same group, and then we actually was like, hey, should we do like a drum rotation, because all of us are here and we have drums. We kind of must as well. So then we
Yeah, but
had
you're like,
like a,
where's my battle shout though?
yeah.
Like, am I getting battle shout from this one warrior? Like,
Yeah, it was super
ah,
noticeable. Like between the tries when we got like a drum rotation up and then we didn't have a drum rotation up as well,
mhm.
it was really noticeable every time you stack things up, and especially with the haste stacking when you have
Yeah.
all the haste things stacking at the same time. It was actually really really noticeable when these things happen. But I think it adds something to something interesting to the thing where it's a lot of melee aren't doing that badly. I think like if you're not in a hardcore comp, like a lot of melee were actually doing okay on a lot of
Like,
these fights.
but here's the thing, right? Is I look at this and I go, okay, so you're gonna see like, oh, yeah, you're gonna see like, you know, a warlock do well and a shadow priest do well because they have pretty much everything they need, right? Like they don't need a lot of classes here. They have the curse of elements up, they have the shadow weaving, and then it's like, what else do they really need to do well, right? Like what other things buff their damage against a boss?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's like the comps are.
There really isn't anything, right? Like I guess they just need a shaman in their group or a boomkin, right? It's like shaman boomkin, elemental shaman and boomkin, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Um,
Ellie Shaman.
whereas like you look at like the damage a melee's doing, and you're like, okay, look at Peyo's damage right now. Imagine if he had an enhancement shaman in his group that gives him 10% AP, a feral druid that gives him 5% crit. I mean, I think he has I don't actually see the Pally judgment up there of the 3% crit, even though you guys had a rep paladin. So he's missing like 8% crit, 10% AP. I think I see the survival thing up there. Yeah, I see the survival thing up there. I don't see. Oh, there's Hunter's Mark. Okay. Yeah. So he's missing like 8% crit, 10% AP. He's missing Battle Shout on top of that. Right. And so it's like there's all these things, and in like Imp Fairy Fire from like a Balanced Druid or a Resto Druid spec in there. So he's missing 3% hit. And there's like all these things that melee need to do the same damage as these ranged characters, or I guess warlocks, which is why I'm just like, yeah, warlocks are going to feel good to play because you don't always need people to help you, but melee scale with gear so incredibly well that all these extra stats and things like that really matter for them. So you're going to feel the difference of being in the shaman group. You're going to feel the difference of being in the raid that has a feral druid in your group, or even like an enhancement shaman versus a regular shaman. So it's really interesting. And I don't know what's going to happen here with the way people play the game and the way people feel about the game, because it made me kind of feel worse, right? Because like world buffs did so much for you, but when you go past TBC, most people have raid wide buffs where they're like, heroism affects the whole raid, right? Or people get sated and you can't just stack heroism in one group, right? Over and over and over again, or bloodlust, right? And so I actually think like it might be best if they introduce some changes, like you can't chain bloodlust a group, right? So you have the people feel like they're cucked out of their bloodlust, or you make things more raid wide, kind of like the Imp Fairy Fire or the expose that a rogue puts, or the expose that a hunter puts. So I'm not sure, because it means you take less of that class, but it would affect the whole raid. But we're definitely going to run into a problem of people are going to be really salty about the group they get into, because the group they get into does not have what they need. It's kind of like how Warriors fight over TSA right now, and it's 100 AP. People fight over True Shot or on Classic. They're like, it's a True Shot our group. You know, obviously, I'm not going to have TPS.
Now it's like
our
rogues.
You don't have anything.
Our rogues, before we start raiding in my NA guild, our rogues would roll to see who was the one rogue that didn't get True Shot every week.
Yeah. Oh, you see, it's stuff like that I think is going to be even worse. It's going to be much worse now. And that's the thing I'm scared for, is that's pretty much going to push out the idea of certain compositions, or the idea of playing certain classes, because people are just going to not be down for synergizing with them, or feel like it's better used somewhere else, which, you know, is a problem right now with the way warriors are on Classic. But I think it's just going to be even worse. Like I think we're in for a really, I would say, a really sour time for people, right? I think there's gonna be a lot of growing pains and a lot of changing of guilds. So we'll see. But I'm thinking, if you're not playing one of the big meta classes, people aren't really gonna want you, and if they do want you, they probably won't be playing towards you. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting watching the raid things. Did you see the clip though? I don't have it with me. The clip of I'll pull it up actually, of Bean just pressing all his haste items and then just going nuts?
No, show it.
Okay, I'll put it up on
Show.
screen. But
Show.
but the interesting thing is, he wasn't even doing it correctly. It is the most interesting thing. I was looking into the clip of Bean doing this, and he basically does like
Hunter.
something similar to like the one button macro, but it wasn't even done perfectly. I was oh, here we go. Someone's got this.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even done perfectly because from what I understand, talking to people, he was clipping his auto, so he actually could have done more damage. He wasn't even doing this correctly. So I'll put it on the screen. Yeah, so he basically presses all his buffs and he gets bloodlust and everything. And you see his damage kind of just pop off, like just go nuts. 2k, 2k, 2k. But actually crazy damage. But he's not even doing this perfectly. Apparently he's supposed to be pausing for certain things and because he's clipping his autos or something like that.
Oh yeah, because your attack speed changes. So.
Yeah. So he's not like doing it ideally.
Yeah, he's clipping his autos by like a fraction of a second, and that will add up, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
But yeah, so Hunter's good, but I mean we already expected this, right? Hunters are known to be crazy good.
Yeah.
In single target especially right now.
And I'm just checking like all the things that he has. So he's in a warrior group, so he has AP. He's got he's got might and stuff like that. Why has he got strength? Did they give him Agi? Where's the Agi totem? Give him an Agi totem. Like he's not even. That's the thing is he doesn't even have everything that he needs. On top of this, there you go. And okay, if they finally twist for him, yeah, okay. So yeah, this is the thing is like being in that group, you're like, well, obviously this group is going to be a lot better for him, right?
Yeah, it's such a difference, like bloodlust and all of that. Especially when I went into Karazhan, we had a similar experience where everyone just wanted to get into Karazhan. We were kind of tired of waiting for people, so people were going there without full, proper, perfect enchanting, without getting like the right gems exactly that they wanted, just kind of throwing stuff in there and going for it. And I didn't even get leatherworking to get the drums. And then later when I got drums for Gruul and such, man, the difference with having drums and stacking it properly is noticeable when you're steroiding yourself.
5%.
Yeah.
It's 5%. You know, it's actually a decent amount. But yeah, when I look back at this clip again, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is an example of what I was talking about where people are playing to the class. Because like he's got Curse of Wreck on, so the Warlock isn't even using Curse of Shadows. So they're Curse of Wrecking this boss. They have an Arms Warrior for the extra 4% physical damage, and they're Imp Exposing it, which is 500 more armor off of the boss than if you just fully Sunder. So those are like 3 debuffs that you wouldn't have in like the Warlock raid that like we were in for Gruul, right? So they're even debuffing the boss in a way that assists him. And that's going to be a huge fucking difference. And that's why I think parsing is going to be so fucking skewed. And it's going to be pretty close to how it is on like retail, where like even if you're playing well, it really matters what classes you have and your kill times too. So people are going to have to play to specific like people or classes to feel like they're getting what they want out of it. Because just imagine being like the rogue in this raid and you're just like, you know, I'm doing 1.1k, I'm doing 1.2, notice me, you know, you're like a third of the hunter's damage. But it just feels like he's putting Imp Expose up, you know, he's assisting. So there's going to be way more people assisting very key people in compositions. And that's what I'm not looking forward to. And that's why I'm like more and more of a fan of like class stacking as time goes on. So
yeah. I mean it was so noticeable. Just the drums alone. Yeah. Just the drums alone. When I had drums the next day and I was just spamming drums on cooldown. It was such a big difference once I realized and got the drums going and such. But yeah, I guess to bring it back to the whole Karazhan thing, it's it was interesting to notice the difference in the gameplay and how much tanks and healing really were the actual factors. Like the DPS is cool and all of that, but it was really, I just felt like most of Karazhan was just how good is your tanking, how good is your healing. If that's good, then you're all good. You could bring just only rogues and warriors and you still be fine because the DPS is just DPS. You kill it a little bit slower, it doesn't really matter. But the difference in having a good tank that knows what they're doing and good healing and such was pretty much a difference maker for me in Karazhan. It was the difference between like watching you do like a 2 or 3 hour Karazhan run and my 7-hour bathtub Karazhan run.
True. The healing, because I was on the healing side of it and then the tanking side of it, and that's how I felt as well. Is like if I drop the ball as a healer for even a second, then your tank dies. There's a lot of damage in there. If you're not using the right heal at the right time, then you're gonna feel really bad too. So
yeah,
there's a lot in there where I was just like, oh, this feels like there's a lot of pressure on you, and you're just allowing other people to kind of play the game. So being a healer, I think, is gonna feel like even more pressure than it is right now. And then I think playing a tank is going to be more fun, but you're also going to yell at your DPS a lot more if threat doesn't get changed for warriors at least. So there's a lot there that I like even here in this clip, like Marky Mark has how far, hold on. I'm actually going to look at this really quickly and see like how far into it he's got X amount of threat. So at 15 seconds in, he's getting like 15k threat. So he's got 1k TPS, but like Bean is so fucking far ahead of him. It's not even funny, right? Like you're doing like you're doing decent threat, but yeah, it's yeah, that's I don't even know if he misdirects him at the start.
I mean, I feel like a lot of this goes back to.
I don't think he does, but we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this goes back to melee on a whole aren't doing that badly, honestly. But I feel like they're going to get pressured into like performing. It's kind of like how you don't need world buffs in Classic to beat the raids, but because if one person brings world buffs and makes you look bad because you don't have world buffs, everyone else has this hidden pressure to suddenly start buffing because you don't want to be the guy who's now like looking bad. You might be performing just as well as the guy with world buffs, but because you don't have world buffs, you just look bad. And I feel like that might happen in TBC to an extent, especially with how easy the content is. People are going to find ways to push each other, which means they're probably going to start getting sweaty and doing leatherworking rotations and things like that just because they want to shine, right? They want to stack all the buffs and shine.
Well, you have to do everything you can. It's kind of like right now, if you don't try, you'll lose the TSA group next week type thing, right? Yeah. And to like address something that people are saying about like Shade of Aran's threat. Yeah, obviously he hits whoever he just decides to target, right? It's obviously random. But I'm talking about the threat meter that's on the table. It's not like he's pulling aggro off of him. I'm just like, the threat that he's putting in is showing on a threat table, and that's what matters to me is the threat table. And it's not like, sure, misdirecting at the start is not a big deal, but I'm like, I was saying if you look at the threat table, he's just launching ahead of him, and he didn't like misdirect at the start. So there's not like his threat being pushed into somebody else's at the beginning. So yeah, I'm just basically going purely off those numbers is what I'm doing. So.
As well as that Badge of Justice was dropping in Karazhan. The blue post does confirm, so I'll pull it up. Blue post does confirm that's not supposed to happen. So
what's not supposed to happen?
Badge of Justice is not supposed to be dropping right now until later raids. So it feels like the Karazhan that they put in was not. Well, it was kind of mixed, like because they said they were gonna go pre-nerf, but then according to the post, actually, there's a good one I got here by Nano. So Nano is from Nostralis, and he was talking with the devs, and he was saying that Badge of Justice are not intended to drop as we have confirmed in the blue post, and as well as that there was kind of like mix-ups as far as like whether there was supposed to be pre-nerf difficulties for this and that. It was kind of like mixed in Karazhan. Some things were pre-nerf, some things weren't pre-nerf, but it seems they're adjusting the things that weren't set to pre-nerf to be pre-nerf. Although honestly, I don't think that's going to change anything. People are still going to smash the Karazhan, but it's interesting. At least they're trying to make it pre-nerf as best as they can.
Yeah. Also for like I think that's a good thing. People be like, oh, they'll be like, oh, good, like they're listening type thing. So I think people will be happy about that. For the final Shade of Aran thing, he does actually have a threat table if you interrupt all three elements. So you do still want to have threat on him so he doesn't run around the room and shit like that. Because if you interrupt all three, then it matters, and he can melee somebody pretty hard. But that's why you don't interrupt arcane missiles most of the time. So you interrupt the other two.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, we can get into the next thing. So I thought we would just go over really quickly to have a look at all the bosses.
Oh, Kara?
in Kara, yeah. And I actually grabbed your VOD because my VOD is 8 hours long, and I'm in a bathtub, and it was very scuffed. It was very scuffed, so I thought we'd use your VOD instead. I timestamped all the bosses though.
Okay.
Let's pull this up. All right, so I think you did. So Attumen at 9 minutes here. Attumen is kind of it's honestly kind of a joke. You don't really do anything. You pretty much just walk up and you hit him, and then he falls over.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's any mechanics or anything like that actually matter on this one. Even my scuffed group without a tank that knows how to tank, that just literally, I think at one point he was like YOLO, and then he ran in then, and we still won without an insanely scuffed flying tank.
Yeah, and like right there, it's like, oh, I have to bop so what up, make sure that he doesn't die. But yeah, there's a lot here where it's like, you have to heal the people who get hit almost immediately. Damage is very, very, I would say, spiky.
Yeah.
And
as long as you're healing, I feel you're good.
Like even there where I heal prep just a little bit, I shouldn't have done that because prep's a shadow priest and they'll just heal it up anyway. So I should have just kept healing pests and kept healing Maltese there. So it's like, this is like, of course, obviously the first boss. So I'm just like kind of learning, like, do I heal the tiny things right there? Like prep, see, like pest spikes. Like you should just be healing your tanks at all times as a healer. And like the other stuff is superfluous. If nobody's taking like, or in threat of taking damage, then like there's no reason to do that. I do make a mistake here too. I should have used the GCD to rebuff Sew It Up with Salve. Just because that's the thing is being the Salve Paladin. You need to once you bop someone who's pulled threat, you need to give them Salve immediately because then they're still in danger of pulling threat. In fact, they're more likely to pull threat again once they've been bopped if you don't re-give them Salve, which is a luxury you have with multiple Paladins in like a 40-man raid. Is once you bop someone, you're probably the King's Pally or something. So you don't think about that too much. But yeah, here, he's kind of a joke. 2 people, and then he goes into 1, and you just heal whoever he's on. I use target of target a lot of the times to see. Yeah. But yeah, here I'm basically just trying to get pre-heals on him, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I guess to break down the fight, he starts off, you start attacking the horse at the start for 5%. Then they combine, and then you hit him, and then he dies. It's pretty much the entire fight. He does charge someone from time to time, but the charge doesn't really do much. He just charges someone, and then he just runs back after that.
Yeah, it's not like a massive deal.
Yeah, maybe is he the easiest boss in the instance? I'm not sure if he is.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like he is because there's no real mechanics to really worry about. He doesn't really do anything or anything. But yeah, so Attumen, I don't think there's much to be said about that. It's just kind of like free loot.
This is me looking at the cloth gloves and going, those are better than my template gloves, and they have spell hit on them. And I'm like, guys, should I roll on this? And then and all the casters are like, I don't know. And then like a healing piece drops later, and you know how healing has like some spell damage on it. They're like, that's an upgrade for me. Should I roll on that? Because the templates were just so bad. Oh man.
Okay, so this is Moroes. Is it Moroes? I never know what I'm saying the names of these guys right.
Moroes, yeah.
Moroes, yeah. So Moroes,
it's obviously a play on morose, like the word, which is like grim.
So I felt like this boss was also. I feel like the first 3 or so bosses are just kind of gimme bosses, just free loot. It felt like the ads didn't really matter that much. I don't know how it was for you, but even in my really super scuffed pug, the ads didn't really matter that much. You just kind of DPS them down. So the way this fight works is you're supposed to kill the ads and you kill Moroes and then the fight's over. But for the most part for us, we barely pay attention. As long as you have someone, kicking the right ads that are mana draining and things like that, there was barely any need to pay attention to anything. It just felt almost like a trash pull for the most part. A very long trash pull, this boss.
Yeah. You basically CC 2, you can shackle 1, turn evil another, like I'm doing there. I don't get the bop on prep, even though I press it. I don't know what's up. I think my hotkey was just off. But it means I do have a bop for like one of the garrotes that he does. So I'm like, tempted to bop Sew It Up. I don't think I do that, and he dies to the bleed eventually, but the bleed just slowly ticks higher and higher. I start realizing that my Holy Light, because what I do as a Paladin is I downrank Holy Light because it's only a 2-second cast, because that's how I played Paladin in TBC, was you downrank Holy Light instead of Flash. And as you get more and more haste in like phase or like tier 6, when you actually haste gems become a thing too, because they didn't have haste gems here. You can get your holy light down to like the same as your flash of light, and it has a higher spell coefficient. And yeah, he dies to. I think he died to the garrote there because it just ticks for more and more. Yeah, the garrote ticks for more and more over time. So like right there, I don't know if that's the tank being CC'd or what, but I think he just dies to the garrote in front of me. But yeah, I think there was a bug with this fight where like I Zerker Rage predicted one of his gouges and he gouged me anyway. So I don't know if that's a bug, but I definitely reported that. Alini's gets blinded. I have to cleanse him, make sure nobody dies. Yeah, it's kind of an easy fight.
Damage. Yeah, I felt like the damage on the garrote because the way the fight works is it's supposed to get progressively harder. And he's going to keep garroting over and over, and it's supposed to be doing more and more damage. And it is, but it didn't feel like that bad. It didn't feel, because the fight itself isn't that hard. It gets progressively harder, but it starts off really easy, so it never really gets super hard.
Yeah. Here I lost my Shadow Priest early on, and she had to like Soulstone or something. So she had like no mana, so I ran out of mana and I had to use a potion and stuff like that. But the garrotes, like there's answers to them. Like I'm a dwarf, I can stone form it. I can bop somebody out of it. If I really needed to, I could DI somebody. But there's a lot of ways to like get around it, and it's kind of like a soft enrage where everybody gets garroted, then like you have to kill him. So it's like an inevitability that your healing can't keep up with this thing that keeps ticking for more and more and more. So the early garrotes you have to kind of deal with a bop or with whatever you can, stone form, etc. I believe also loofah works. So if you go get your loofah from Classic,
I knew I saved it in my bank for a reason.
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure that loofah works. Actually, I'll just confirm it and say 100% loofah is supposed to work because I remember using it back in the day.
All right,
it get changed? Really? Wait a second. It's patched out specifically.
Oh, no loofah.
Was nerfed later in TBC. What? Wait, later in TBC? Are they not using? They're not using the early version of it. Will not work on bleeds cast by enemies over level 60. But interesting, because I remember using it back in the day on my rogue because I was a night elf rogue and I was like, this I need to be able to use this. It worked in early TBC and then they changed it later.
I guess we're getting the later version.
Well, I guess so. Well, progressive but all itemization, but only for some things. Yeah, I guess so. That sucks.
My chat. No, my chat was right when they make fun of me for saving all that junk in my bank.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Attumen and Moroes, both fairly easy fights. No real challenges there. Maiden, I feel like Maiden is more positioning. Once you're all set up position wise, the fight was just tank and spank, and that was it.
Yeah, the fight is pretty tank and spank. The silence means that a lot of people don't get to play their class in melee range, but it's all right. Like people just spread out. People will have a really I guess I want to say people really want to like avoid the repentance, so they walk into it because people have like DBM timers or something, but it's a window. So you see like a lot of people are taking the silence right now, so the damage is really low. But I don't know. For me, as a paladin, you just cleanse the holy fire when it goes off on whoever it does go off, and you just keep sack up on the tank, and you see like making sure that Ticey doesn't die here, cleanse it, make sure Maltese is getting healed. Repentance goes off, instantly breaks on me, so I'm continuing to heal because I have sack up. So whatever you can do to damage yourself, Skull of Impending Doom also works here, to my knowledge. If you're like a healer or something and you want to like try to break out. But sack is like the biggest one that you would use as a paladin, of course. Yeah, you can bubble out of it too. Yeah,
so explain what Zirene was talking about. You get repentanced, and then you want to be able to like break that repentance, so you don't sit in the repentance the whole time. And repentance is just like is it 12 seconds incapacitate? I forgot the exact number.
I don't know how much it does there. Also, this here basically does Sir Zelic Beam or Zelic Beam, and that's why like Sew It Up insta dies because I believe he's in melee range. Which actually is something I wanted to talk about was the melee composition that I had before. It's more like shifted over time to being just a physical stack and less. I don't like to call it like a melee stack composition. I think originally is what I keyed it or like coined it as.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more of like a physical composition thing, and I'm more open to like moving warriors for hunters in that composition because the more I look at and remember the mechanics of TBC, a lot of it was you can't stand next to each other, and there's only limited room around bosses. Like when you get to Brutalis, he does this burn on people, and you can't stand next to each other, and there's only so much melee range, so you can't stack like you do on Saffron. Caligo, same thing, right? There's like things where you can't stand next to each other. So there's a lot of just don't stand next to each other mechanics, and there's only so much room on bosses that you're probably bringing upwards of up to like 8 melee total, counting your tank, right? Otherwise, you just kind of run out of space. So I'm pretty sure that's like what that comp's going to start looking like over time is just there's going to be a little more hunters now than warriors. Right now, I think the comp has like what 3, 4, 5. I think it has like 7 warriors, or it has like somewhere like 7 or 8 warriors, maybe 9, counting a main tank. But I think that over time I'm going to move like more hunters into there instead of warriors for the single target boss damage, and the warriors like the trash damage guys. So yeah, basically there's a lot of melee unfriendly mechanics, what people were saying, but it's more like it's more unfriendly the more melee you have. Kind of like Gruul, right? You don't want people standing next to each other, but obviously all the warriors want to intercept back in to have damage uptime. So yeah, you can only have so many melee is I guess the point of that.
Gruul guys, a hot tip: if you're a rogue, you can cloak or improve sprint and get a little bit of extra damage in there when you're about to get stoned and all that. So hot tip, cloak does work.
Yeah, cloak actually is really interesting. Rogues have a lot of free time and actually do a decent amount of damage later in the game, especially if they have warglaives. They actually compete with hunters because there's some mechanics on fights that they can just cloak and ignore. For example, on Brutalis, if you get the burn, you can just cloak it off, right? So you don't add to like the number of people in melee the same way that other people do. And I believe cloak is just a minute cooldown.
Yeah. I think
is it? Yeah, it's a minute cooldown. Yeah, so it actually does a lot for you, and cloak allows you to kind of ignore some things.
Yeah,
so
it's super fun. It's taking time to get used to it because I'm not used to cloaking. Like it's just not in my muscle memory. I've totally forgotten the cloak, but when you get used to it, it's really nice. And I always forgot how nice cloak is to have in so many situations. But,
it's incredibly good, and a lot of bosses it just allows you to ignore the mechanics. So rogues become very easy to play. And I kind of like sit there and go, sure, they don't bring a lot to the raid, but they don't ever hurt your raid, right?
Yeah,
like rogues are very unlikely to hurt your raid.
Yeah, and from looking at the DPS I was doing throughout my Karazhan at least, my DPS like it wasn't bad. It goes back to the thing that we've been saying for a while now, where people over exaggerate just how bad rogues and warriors are. In reality, they're perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable, and they have a lot of fun utility and things that you can kind of do as far as your playstyle goes with cloak and such.
Yeah. It's interesting because like you can see here, like even on like the damage meter, like Alini's is a warrior, and he does well on a lot of the fights, but he doesn't even have the shaman in his group, right? The shaman's in the I was giving him Conqueror, so you can see, and like I have heroism right now, so like he ends up doing well on some fights. This one I don't think is one because it's a lot of kiting and shit. So
yeah. So this is the. Is it theater? They call it the theater boss, and
there's opera.
Yeah, opera, and it's random. Both me and Zirene both got it. I don't know what you got in your second run, but your first run you got the same. I got Big Bad Wolf as well.
You got a Romulo and Julianne in the second one.
Yeah. So to go over Big Bad Wolf, it's pretty straightforward. He chases one person from time to time, and then that person runs away, and you just burn him. That's pretty much the boss. It's really really easy boss. I think he's the easiest opera boss, right?
Yeah, he's the easiest one. Requires least coordination because the other one you gotta you gotta like make sure in Romulo and Julianne that you have to kill them both at the same time. On the Wizard of Oz one, you have to kind of separate your damage. Kill Dorothy. If Tito comes out, then you have to kill him. Don't kill Tito before you kill Dorothy, or she enrages. She has no aggro. The Straw Man. You basically put a fire mage or a warlock imp on it, and he gets disoriented by fire spells. You basically have a fire mage solo him. You have to have somebody kite around the Tin Man because he slowly gets slower, but he cleaves, so you can't really like tank him on top of other things too. And then the lion guy, the roar guy, you want to deal with him as soon as possible too. So And then the crone comes out, and it's like a witch that doesn't do much except chain lightning and like whirlwind knock-up thing. It's like something that it's like a tornado or like a gust that just flies and pushes people up into the air. So definitely the big bad wolf is the funnest and the easiest of them.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's this after those first three bosses and theater. I feel like the things start getting harder in Karazhan. Not like hard, but at least you have to kind of know a bit of mechanics, or people have to be on the ball and healing and tanking properly and such. But before then, it almost feels like you can just zerg down a lot of these encounters. But
I think I've always thought of it as like divided into two pieces, where the first four bosses up to the opera are like easy, or like the beginning parts. That's like most pugs will beat that with a given enough effort. But then it's where, you know, where the back door to Karazhan is, where you open that after the opera. I feel like that's a whole second half of Kara, and that's definitely harder. That's the thing that I remember pugs like struggling with, not being able to either summon or kill Nightbane, struggling with Curator sometimes. This I think was one of the attempts we lost.
Oh, is this why? I just found it in the timestamp.
Because I think EFG just gets, I think he gets killed before the boss even lands. And he didn't do anything to it. Like, you don't see him like have any aggro or anything like that. He just gets clapped before the boss even lands.
Yeah. So for folks, this is Nightbane. Is he one of the harder? I feel like the two dragons are the hardest ones in the.
Yeah, Nightbane's supposed to be nice. Nightbane's supposed to be the final boss of Karazhan. You're supposed to go back down for him later. He's one that you can't summon without doing a pre-quest kind of thing that allows you to get the blackened urn. So Nightbane was kind of like the hidden final boss of Karazhan back in the day. So yeah, him and Netherspite, I think, are the hardest. The Prince is not that hard. But yeah, I think that's kind of how I would.
Did you want to go over just roughly the Nightbane mechanics for people?
Yeah, sure. Nightbane does it's basically like every other dragon: tail whip, frontal cleave. So you want to stand on the sides of him. You don't have a lot of room to work with him. Every 25%, so 75, 50, and 25%, you'll go up into the air. It does a smoldering breath on the main tank. Just normally you can see he has the dot on him. Does an AoE fear. And then he goes up into the air here for 75%. When he's in the air, he's going to do a Brain of Bones. People stack up for this usually so that the ads will all be in one spot. Then there's these ads that spawn. This is the version where you can kill them with pretty much anything. When it first came out, you could only damage them with, I believe, Holy and Physical. So people use Stratfoam Holy Water on this back in the day. Like all the mages would get it. The warlocks would get it because they had no other way to really damage them. He does this thing called Distracting Ash, which lowers your chance to hit with magic and with physical attacks, which I had on me, and you just cleanse it. And here he'll just target certain people and put that little debuff on them where he does 3,000 damage over a certain amount of time. I was cleansing it because it's, I have a PvP brain where I see magic effect, cleanse magic effect. But I'm pretty sure you just heal through it because it's 3k damage through like 12 seconds. So it's not much at all.
Yeah, it wasn't much at all.
Yeah, then he'll come back down. And then his threat is really finicky because he'll go after somebody immediately. And then like the main tank has to get it back. And this became a problem for us where we were like, everybody needs to stand on one side, which obviously I'm not doing right now. Everyone needs to stand on one side and away from the boss because it's a complete threat drop when he hits the ground. And the main tank will usually not get the very first hit on it for some reason. Or you'll start walking at somebody, hit somebody, and then it turns to the tank after. So what we found was the off tank. This is what Thade and I did in our run where I played Warrior, is he would hit it as a bear and I would hit it as a human, and whoever got it, or as a warrior, and whoever got it first puts it in position and then just hands it off to me. He wanted to hand it off to me because, he can do damage as a cat and stuff like that. But having like an off tank be able to get it to you and make sure you have two people who can pick it up as opposed to one seems to be the way to go. He also does a thing called Charred Earth, which you can see on the ground there. The Charred Earth is just going to it's going to limit the arena a little bit more. You'll see when people stand in it, they get like a little magic debuff that's like almost looks like a smiley face. It's like the fire smiley face looking one. And so the Charred Earth doesn't last too long. I believe it clears up when he goes into the air or starts doing other things in the air. And so you don't have to like worry about it too much. You just get out of it and then just find a different place to stand. Our damage is a lot better now than it was back in the day. And I remember multiple Charred Earths coming down, and a lot of people had to move. But yeah, so basically his mechanics are frontal cleave, tail whip, AoE fear every now and then. Not really a big deal. You tremor totem, fear ward, main tank, even though fear ward has a long cooldown on it. And then you'll go up in the air every 25%. Does a little fire thing on targeted people, like you see there, hitting that guy. Does a thing that makes them miss. You just cleanse it. And then he'll also do a rain of bones, and those guys have to just get killed. So you just kill the ads as fast as possible. Comes back down. The hardest part of this is getting aggro before more people die. And that's pretty much all there is to Nightbane. It's just kind of a more or less an endurance fight.
Yeah, it's a long fight. It's a long one. That's what I noticed when I was doing it.
Yeah, and you see So What Up dies there. Like, we lose a shaman. It just, people have to stand really far away, which we do in our next attempt. We all stand on that other side where you see the hunter that's far away. We all stand there, and we stand away from it. So being as far away from as possible from where he lands is always going to be the play. For melee, for range, just let the tank get it.
There's the burned ground.
Yeah, there's the scorched earth. And I think Maltese goes down eventually. I don't remember when he dies.
Yeah, so this is the wipe. But yeah, so for, at least from a rogue perspective.
I'm solo healing now.
Yeah, from a rogue perspective,
now, which is the problem.
What I noticed was for the rogues that want to min-max this a bit, you save your cooldowns for or your cleave for the skeletons, and then once the skeletons pop up, you just pop your blade flurry, pop your cooldowns, and you just wreck those. But yeah, it's an endurance fight. As long as people are doing the mechanics, it's just a slow burn.
Yeah, but I'm running out of mana here. I don't really have anything. I could Dark Rune here, but I'm solo healing this. We don't have a battle res, and I'm just trying to see what I can do until my potion comes back, so I don't have to Dark Rune. But yeah. All
right. So that's Nightbane. You guys are about to die in a little bit.
I think we die on this one because we're missing.
You guys got him pretty low, actually. Wait, what is he at on this one?
He's at 25% right here. He's at 25%. But yeah, I had to lay on hands myself, keep myself up, see if I can do anything with Maltese.
So from what I understand as well, the skeletons here they were talking about these being post nerf. Supposedly these might actually end up hitting harder.
Yeah, I think they have to hit harder, and they also have to. Oh, do I die here? I think I might die here because I'm healing and it comes right down on me or something. Yeah. I'm like, oh fuck. Yeah, Soulstone, and then I don't get a heal on Maltese in time. I think. Yeah. So unfortunate, but yeah, we learned to just stand away from it when it comes down. It's just threat seems a lot more finicky in this fight than others. So
yeah, it feels as long as you get the transitions right, it's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah, losing a healer there was like, it strained me out more, which made me want to heal in that situation, which gave me aggro and stuff. So it's just kind of a process of one thing goes wrong and so the rest of it goes wrong type thing.
Okay, let me see. You got Curator here. So Curator was an interesting one because at the start, Curator was bugged to spawn three flares at the same time. Do you wipe on this one, or do you get them on this first one?
No. I believe we kill him. So we pull Curator with a pack by accident, and this is the pre-nerf Curator where he'll spawn anywhere from 1 to 3 flares, but the call is just focus the flares like every time, like melee on it, cleave it, kill it. We don't care about the damage to Curator. See like that, you get 3 flares at the same time, right? But we don't really struggle with it too much. We have people like AoEing appropriately. They go down and people are focused on them as opposed to the other strat, which is just tank them off on the side, which I think some people fell prey to.
Yeah. You definitely want to kill them. Even my scuffed melee comp with a proper tank and such managed to get it. As long as you focus the flares, you're pretty much good. There's no other real mechanic to worry that much about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we pulled him with a pack of those, like, fucking the mana eels and like the astral shade or whatever it's called. I don't know. So we pulled him during a pack, and he spawns 3 flares, and we had no problem with him whatsoever, right? And people's damage during Evocate is much higher now. So people back in the day used to have to go through like 2 Evocate phases, but now it was just like, people know, save their cooldowns for this, basically burn in with everything you got, healers, DPS as well, and then it's not a problem at all. And he ends up being really easy. I know some people wipe to this. I think Apes did or something, or like my toss.
I think a lot of people just got surprised by the 3 flares. They were expecting one, and then suddenly 5 billion flares are popping out all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once everyone realized that you have to kill the flares, you're pretty much good. I feel even the people with the 3 flares, by the time my scuffed pug got there, it was already enough to be only one flare. But
Mm.
yeah, as long as you focus the flares, you're pretty much good on this fight. There's no other real thing to worry about.
Yeah. The evocation is where you save your cooldowns for. Like if you have adrenaline rush, you save it for that. You get blade flurry. When he evocates, I think he spawns one last astral flare, so that's when you want to use your blade flurry as a rogue. You blade flurry and then you pop adrenaline rush, but you don't really pull off the boss. You more so hit the boss and splash it onto the flare if possible. If it's out of your range, then it's somebody else's problem, not yours. But yeah, so it's pretty simple. I don't think I
Yeah,
I don't think any of the bosses are really that challenging.
yeah, I feel like a
Um,
lot of the curator, because at first when I was doing my pug, a lot of people saying, "Oh man, all these people are wiping to curator," but I think that was just like the surprise from the 3 flares, and then once
yeah,
that got handled, it was straightforward.
yeah. If people had been using, like I said before, they use the off tank strat. You wipe, and you'd have to adjust because there were just too many flares. Because that was the strat. Once you had gear, was just off tank the flares and then deal with them later instead of pulling damage off. But this was a kind of, I think, a strategy that I remembered was always focus the flares. You don't really have to worry about anything else in the fight.
Okay, so we have Illhoof here. I say this is one of the easiest bosses next to the other one, but I guess it depends. You want to walk through the mechanics here?
Yeah, so basically, Illhoof, he'll sacrifice somebody from time to time. He has a little buddy named like Krelek or something like that. You kill Killrek, sorry, and then it makes him take 25% more damage. Makes Illhoof take it. So you basically stack them, you cleave them, and then you go ahead and you just DPS Illhoof. That's when, like, once that happens, you can see people are using heroism. You can throw seeds into him because he spawns 2 portals that constantly make imps come out, those fiendish imps. So the warlock just Seed of Corruptions the whole time. You basically just spam cleave throughout the entirety of it, and then you just kill him. You see there, he's going to sacrifice someone. You have to focus the demonic chains, so everybody peels off boss, goes demonic chains, kills those while you heal the person who's being sacrificed. And it was a healer, so like I had to be the one healing the tank and healing the person sacrificed, which is like when you're running only 2 healers, it does become stressful. But otherwise, that's pretty much all there is to the fight. You just AoE off of him, you kill the imps that spawn, you focus the demonic chains, and then you kill Killrek whenever he's up because it makes Illhoof take more damage. And you can see Killrek came back, so after a certain amount of time,
Is it
he'll come
45
back.
seconds? I think something like that.
I don't know. It might be 45, but after a bit, he'll spawn him again, and then you have to kill him, and then he'll take 25% more damage again. Right? And Neebs get sacrificed. You just have to heal him, and then people focus the demonic chains, which they aren't now, and now they are. And then that's all there is to the fight. Very, very simple. People were saying this is the post-nerf version of him because I think there was a version of him that like was harder, but I don't know. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either. But I found him probably one of the easiest bosses in the instance.
Mhm.
As long as you kill the little imp guy and then onto him, that was literally the only mechanic. And then well, I guess then you worry about the change as well. But yeah, for the most part, he didn't seem to like hit very hard or anything like that. It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like back in the day when people would call like swap to chains, if everybody would do it, because the chains only have like 9k HP and they kind of melt.
Yeah.
So I'm like, were people actually swapping to the chains back then? And that's what made it hard, is that they weren't doing it. Maybe. So I was just kind of like, I don't know, man. Maybe bosses seem easier now because people aren't as dumb. So I don't know.
All right, Shade. Man, it's nice having Zirene here. It feels like I'm in like a League of Legends cast or something, and you're breaking down the stuff. All right, you want to break down the mechanics for Shade?
Yeah, Shade will go through the 3 elements that mages can cast: Fire, Frost, and Arcane. You assign people to kick Frost and kick Fire, but you just heal whoever gets Arcaned. So we basically said our Shaman and our DPS Warrior will go after Frost, and then our 2 tank Warriors will go after Fire. The Arcane doesn't really hit that hard, but you want them to be able to cast it, so you just interrupt the other ones. You can see he's pretty much targeting our tank only here with stuff. So like he does have some threat to some degree. You can see he does a blizzard around the room, which goes around the outskirts of it. It doesn't hit that hard. It's not like Saffron Blizzard, but you can see like, Ticey standing in it, having to get out. It does slow you, but yeah, it goes all the way around the room clockwise. The other thing he does is Flame Wreath. When he does Flame Wreath, this is the thing that kills people. Don't move. This right here is I'll go to Flame Wreath when he does it. This is just a mass slow. He pulls everyone in and then does Arcane Explosion. Just get to the edges of the room as fast as possible, and then he's going to do it. And then you just go ahead and continue to fight. Flame Wreath is the other thing he does, which he puts he'll have a cast time. He puts like a ring of fire around people. You're not allowed to move. If you move through it or somebody moves into it, it blows up. And when it blows up, it does damage to pretty much everybody, and it's a wipe. So there used to be like a chant back in the day. This is it right here, where it's like, he says, "Burn, you hellish fiends." You're going to have a ring around you. Those guys can't move. That debuff that they have, that Pests and Alinis have, if anybody gains or loses that debuff, then it makes it explode. So I'm pretty sure if you Pally Bubble, it also makes it explode. So you can't gain or lose that debuff once Flame Wreath is out. The other thing he does is he'll summon water elementals. You CC them with Banish. I believe you can Fear, and you need to just either kill them or just CC them and make sure that they aren't doing anything for the fight. He does like a thing where he'll put somebody in ice as well. You just cleanse it. You saw me do it earlier on Alinis. And I think the final thing he does is he will polymorph everybody in the room. I don't know if he even does it here. He polys everybody, and then he takes a drink, and he'll start drinking to get his mana back up. And then he'll pyroblast everybody for a decent amount of damage, but it's nothing that's too hard to deal with. So I don't think we see a polymorph, but yeah, that's pretty much all there is to the fight. Is you just interrupt those two spell casts. You avoid the blizzard on the outskirts. You avoid the arcane explosion by going to the outskirts, and then you don't move during Flame Wreath. And that's pretty much all there is to it. The elementals, you just CC them, deal with them, or kill them. It's up to you. But yeah, he's a pretty simple fight.
Yeah, I feel like as long as you don't mess up Flame Wreath on this boss, you're usually pretty good. All the wipes I saw, at least, were a lot of just people moving.
Yeah.
Technically, everyone that's not in a Flame Wreath, because I think it's 3 people. Is it 3 that he puts in the Flame Wreath? Everyone else can move, but it's just the way my raid did it is we just said no one move, just in case you have it under you and you don't see it or something. It's just safer to have no one move during the Flame Wreath.
Yeah, you just don't move. Just make sure there's no reason to really move. Yeah, right there, somebody jumped into the Flame Wreath. I don't know if that saved him or not, but I bopped him just because.
Okay, chess event.
Yep, the chess event. The chess event was really interesting because this group, I think we ended up losing to it twice because people weren't exactly sure what to do, and I was like, wait a second, like people are like controlling things and like not moving stuff. Like the king is almost dead. I'm like, bro, what's been going on over here? Like, what's even been hitting him? I think like Nadiv cheated and like people didn't move it. And then the second time we did it, I was like, okay, like the chess event is soloable. You can actually solo this. The strategy is you just move 2 pawns forward, 1 space, and then you control the queen and you just pelt whatever comes in range. And then the king, if Nadiv ever cheats, you just move him forward a space so that he's not in the fire anymore. And that's all there is to it. You can actually solo this, but when we went to go do that, people kept controlling pieces and then kept moving stuff around, which changes the way that the enemy plays too. So it was really funny that we lost twice to this. And then the next time I was just like, you know what, screw it.
Yeah,
we just
I feel like some people also didn't know to like spam your abilities and things like that. People, a lot in our group, a lot of people were just randomly moving around at first. Then we had to tell people, yeah, guys, you don't forget to use your abilities. You have abilities there that you want to be just spam clicking and such.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty simple event. It's just you just need people to make sure they're clicking their abilities and not standing in fire and such.
Yeah, not standing in fire, not doing nothing, right?
Yeah, so you can see Zirene down here just spam clicking all his abilities. That's pretty much all you really need to do. You just have to. So the goal is to kill the enemy. It's king, right? Not queen. It's king.
Yeah, it's the enemy king. Yeah,
enemy king.
The queen is the most deadly piece. You really only have to worry about like the queen, the king, and the bishops because the bishops heal. So when you get something low, like maybe it won't be the same, right? Or like it won't actually get low and then they heal it. So. Yeah, those are pieces you have to worry about. But yeah, so this is another one that I believe we fail.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think this is another one that we fail, and then eventually we just go, you know what, just
Did your
screw it.
loot work properly, by the way? Because we
No,
did
it
the
did
chest
not.
event, and then
Neither
only
time.
one person in the group could open
Mhm.
the chest.
Yeah, it was bugged. There was only one person who could open the chest in both of our runs. So that ended up being a problem. So because the only one person could actually do anything and get the loot, it was like you hoped it was for them, but it wasn't. So we ended up in a situation where there was like loot that people couldn't use. So the chess event was bugged. We had like a King's Defender go to like a hunter or something in like a different
Grats
run.
Snow
So.
on the King's Defender, by the way. I am a proud owner of a King's
Did you
Defender.
get it?
Yeah, I was the one in my group who could open the chest.
Oh, yeah. This is where I think nobody moved the king. I was like, so somebody's got to move the king, bro.
Wait,
I
so
was
I'll
like,
go
"Come
back
on, guys."
here, and people can see because it says when Medivh cheats. Yeah, there you go. Echo of
Yeah.
Medivh cheats. So when he does that,
Yeah.
you need to move the king.
Yeah, I was like, it's like somebody should just move the king. Come on. I was like, oh no, Neebs is in it right now, and I was like, I got out of that because I think I died. Yeah, I think the piece died because I was just like paying attention to other stuff, and I was like, oh, and I didn't die in the fire, but I think I died to like a cleave or something. I have no idea.
Ooh,
But yeah,
and then we're
this
back.
is where things started going pretty poorly. So you just skip forward to the when we actually do it. Basically, if everybody controls a piece and does it appropriately, then you're gonna be fine.
And
The
we're
chess
giving
events
you
is
some
just
money
a
here,
little fun.
Zirene. We're watching all these
Yeah,
ads.
giving me the money for one person when there's like more people than that watching. But yeah, I appreciate you not using ad block. This is gonna be 1 ad of 3. Why is my channel like this, dude? What is going on? Why is it Blade and Soul? I don't what. Why are my oh wait, I was like, why are my ads like targeting a Korean audience? I was like,
Welcome to Korea.
I was like, what? Your ads are so different than mine, Snow. What's going on here?
Oh, we have great ads, by the way. Korean ads are amazing.
Yeah, Korea and Japan have really good ads. Like they understand advertising. I guess they understand their audience and like attention spans. So they're pretty good with that.
All right. Next fight is you did Netherspite last, and then you did Prince.
Mhm.
It looks like.
Okay. Yeah. So Prince has 3 phases. The first phase, what ends up happening is he'll just have infernals come down from the sky. He can only have 4 infernals out at a time. When he has the infernals out, they do like a little. They don't move around. They just do a pulsing AoE fire in wherever they land. So you just want to avoid them. The other thing he'll do is he'll do a Shadow Word Pain. You just cleanse it off people, and then he'll make people have 1 HP, and they can't be healed or anything like that. But he does it to like 3 people, and then he'll do a Shadow Nova that does like 3k HP, and basically will kill those people. So if you see these 5 people, I guess they all have to move away from the Shadow aura, and they have to make sure that they aren't close to an Infernal, right? Because the Infernal is going to pulse and like potentially kill people. They were lucky because I think somebody got a Power Word shield that would have died otherwise. So yeah, that's what he does in phase 1. He'll hit you. He'll do that. Just make sure if you get it, you just move away. Don't move into an Infernal, and don't stay too close for the Shadow Nova. The melee have like a little nook that they can go into that people usually send them to. It's off on the right side. I don't know if anybody actually runs to it. Yeah, people just run away there. Phase 2, he'll end up having 2 weapons, and he'll sunder your armor. And so when he summons those 2 weapons, he does basically everything he's doing right now, and then he will just swing harder at the tank. And then at phase 3, what he does is the weapons fly around on their own, and they can't be tanked, and they just do a little bit of damage to people over and over again. So during that phase, he does the Shadow Nova still. I don't think he does the thing that lowers your HP to 1, though. So you can see he just summoned his weapons. This, I believe, is where he'll sunder the tank and make them take more damage. There's the Shadow Nova without having to use the debuff that puts you at 1 HP. But yeah, so basically, Maltese is sundered. He'll take more damage. I use wings just in case. I pop a potion just to stay healthy. People wanted to see what I would heal for. So yeah, you see he gets like pretty spiky there.
Oh, there you got 1% here because you got the... Is it cripple? I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, this was bad because I think I die here to this.
Ooh, wait, let me see. Wait, what killed you here?
Because I wasn't close enough for the other ones, which was really interesting. I didn't think I had moved that much at all. But then I died to the Shadow Nova, right? Okay. And I was like, oh, I guess I was close. I guess I was close enough. Oh, well.
So I
So
guess that at least shows people the mechanic. Yeah. So if you
yeah,
get
right.
to that is it cripple? I can't remember if it's called cripple or end cripple or
It's
something
some.
like that.
I think it'll say when it goes on me enfeeble, enfeeble.
Enfeeble, yeah,
It's
and it, it
enfeeble.
it basically puts you at like 1 HP or whatever it is. So
Yeah,
you basically anything will kill you. So the main
yeah.
mechanic to avoid is if you get the cripple, you have to not be near the prince,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise he's obviously gonna kill you. So as long as you're
Mm-hmm.
crippled, you need to get out. If you're not crippled, you can actually stand in if you can heal through it and it doesn't kill
Yes.
you or anything. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
if
just
you're
knocks you
crippled, you
back.
just need to make sure you're not anywhere near there.
Yeah,
You,
and I think I die again here at the end because I think there's one that ends up on my left side, and I don't think I'm like close enough to it or something. I think I end up getting like pincered or some shit. Because I'm not with the rest of the group, right? Like that one's right there next to me. And I'm like, and then I get enfeebled right then and I
oh
move and I'm
oh
like, I don't
yeah.
think I'm close enough to it. And then it goes off and I'm like, what the
It's
fuck?
it's funny that you just that happened. I was about to say like the one thing that's really bad sometimes in this event is that you can get RNG'd really badly, where you get like a bad Inferno and you get the feeble at the same time, and then
Yeah.
it's just like, well, what can you do? I was instantly just gibbed like that, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I didn't think I had moved the first time. I don't know if like he moved or like if I had moved and just didn't remember. But I thought I had planted my feet the very first time and died to the enfeeble plus the shadow nova. And then this time I thought I was out of range and I was like, okay. And so I like stopped and then it got me. Maybe I could have bubbled, but at that point, I think we still kill him anyway. There can only be 4 of these up at a time. But yeah, typically your group all wants to be together instead of like where I am. Uh, some people are saying like, oh, I'm baiting some away from the group but I don't think that's how it works. I think it's just completely random,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
and
it's
you can
just
get
random the
RNG pretty hard.
Infernos. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like I'm pretty much dead no matter what in this situation though, unless I bubble because I don't think I can move to the left or right. And then I think since he enfeebled me, he was going to Shadow Nova soon anyway. So yeah, I think I was dead if I didn't bubble. But yeah, those are the weapons flying around. You can see them. They have no aggro or threat table. They just run around and hit things randomly for a bit, and then they get bored, and then they go hit something else. So they hit for a decent amount on cloth, but it's not anything that's like that bad.
So the last one is Netherspite. I'd say the hardest boss in the
Mm-hmm.
instance, just because of just raw mechanics that you have to
Yeah.
know. And honestly, were the beams a little bit buggy for you sometimes? Like it was a little bit weird trying to block the beam sometimes.
So I remember them being like this, but yeah, I think people just get freaked out that the beam is going above them. You just have to trust that you're in the line between the boss and the beam, even if it's above you, right?
Yeah.
And it'll just snap to you because it's going to go to the boss up above. It's not going to go to like the center bottom of their hitbox. It goes to the top. But overall, I don't think Netherspite's that difficult once people know what they need to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So do you want to run through people through the mechanics?
yeah. There's 3 beams that he has. The beams come out, and whoever's in the red beam instantly gets aggro. What the red beam does is the red beam will slowly take away your maximum HP, but it basically is the tank stands in it and blocks it from being on him. The reason you block them is because if he gets the beams, he gets the buffs from the beams that tick on him and make him stronger. And then he ends up getting like 200% more damage as well. And you saw Pest there died, the person tanking the red beam. He died because he stayed in the red beam for the entire duration. So what you need to do with the red beam is you need to stand in it for 5. So if you're a tank, this is important. You stand in it for 5 stacks, move out of it for 5 stacks. Stand in it for 5 stacks, move out of it for 5 stacks. So it's enough time for the buff to not stack up on Netherspite and to keep falling off. But it's also enough time for you to tank the boss. And every time you go back into it, it gives you full HP again. So you actually don't need healing on the tank if the tank does this correctly and takes the stacks, stands out, and then takes them again. So it's 5 on, 5 off as the tank. Because I believe each phase, it's about it's about 60 stacks or 60 ticks ish. So you don't want to have 2 people go into the beam because once you take the beam and then the buff falls off you, you get a 2-minute debuff that prevents you from getting the beam again. So that would mean that you would need 4 tanks for Netherspite instead of 2. Whereas if you just use 5 on, 5 off, you could just use 1 tank for this phase, like Maltese, and then the next time that he goes in to like his shadow form, you just use Pez the next time, right? But you can see Maltese is standing in it the entire time, which is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do 5 on, 5 off. I think this one we wipe, but then the next one people get it right. The blue beam is one that increases your damage, but decreases your total mana, I believe. So what you do is you end up just putting your damage dealers in there. Your blue beam is for your warlocks, for your rogues, your warriors, anybody who basically wants to stand in there and do damage. It does a lot of damage. So, it increases your damage that you deal and take. Sorry, it increases the damage you deal and take. And so you just want to stand in it for like 30 stacks and then hand off to another one. So you want 4 DPSers to go between that beam, 2 for the first phase, 2 for the second phase, or 2 for when you go back to that phase. So you basically want like 2 hunters in there, or this one it would be 2 hunters, and then also like there are mage and our warlock. So 30 for our mage, 30 for our warlock. Then he'll do the shadow. Then you put 30 on a hunter, 30 on a different hunter. The green beam is one that I believe this is the one that increases your healing, decreases your total mana, and also decreases your costs of abilities. So what you do with this, instead of putting a healer in there, you put a warrior or a rogue, because it makes you have less energy and rage cost. So the typical strat is whoever your off tank is, you just have them in there for the first phase. So you can see here, Maltese is in red, Pest is in green. And then we just have a damage dealer in the blue. And then the damage dealer will hand off. EFG just handed it off to Ticey. So EFG can no longer get the blue beam. Ticey's going to take that for 30 stacks. And you can see Maltese is going in and out. The green beam, you just stay in there. You see Pest has like 50 stacks or whatever. So that's how you do it. He goes into a Netherfed Rage here. And we did this appropriately with the very first, everybody soaked their beams. What he'll do is he'll turn randomly and hit people. There's 2 strategies for this. One of them is you just keep a healer and a tank in, and then everybody else runs to like the bookcases in the bottom left corner of the map. And you just stand there. And he'll only hit the people in range. The other strategy is everybody just gets underneath him, and you'll see who he targets. You see it's like targeting Maltese. He spins. He's going to go this way. And you can see I'm right under him, and he doesn't hit me with the knockback there. So the other strategy is you just kind of stand next to him, and then whoever he's facing, you just move through him, right? So right there, if I wasn't healing, like I'd just walk through him, and then I'd be on the other side of it and wouldn't get knocked back. So those are the 2 strategies. You either run away, or you do the one where you go back and or you're in and everybody's just moving around him. Oh. And so here this time, we'll have Maltese. Oh no. So the next time we'll just have 2 different DPSers in the blue beam. We'll have Maltese be in the green beam, and we'll have Pest in the red beam. So basically, you just take your tank and off tank. One of them takes red, 5 in, 5 off. The other one takes green for the entirety of it, and then they swap the next time afterwards because they have the 2-minute debuff. And then you just have 4 DPSers, 30 for one of them, 30 for the next one, for the phase of the blue beam. So you see Prep is in there right now. Preparaka, she'll take 30, and then she'll hand it off to somebody. I think she might die here because of like the shadow damage that ends up happening, and she's like a little far from us. So she's like really close to the beam, and she's like out of my range, and I have to get really close to heal her. And I think she dies here. Yeah, she dies here, just barely. So they just end up soaking the beam from there with Neebs. But yeah, so that's all there is to it. Yeah. You just have to understand and assign people the beams at certain times, and that's it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the red beam, I believe, if you have the red beam, you just get aggro.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's perma aggro. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perma aggro, it gives you a lot of HP, but then it slowly like ticks down and like removes that HP. So you can't tank it forever is the whole point. That's why you have to be 5 on, 5 off.
Okay, well, let me see. Where's your tank? Is he doing the 5 on, 5 off in this attempt? I didn't see.
Yeah, this one he is. That's why he doesn't get to 60. He gets to like 40 or something, which is still pretty high. But you like when I click on him, you see his HP total.
Yeah.
For Maltese, let's see here. Pest is taking the green beam. Maltese is so he's got like 11k HP, right? Which is lower than his total, and he's just that'll just tick down. But the thing is, your tank usually doesn't need healing because every time they take a tick of the red beam, it puts them back at full. So,
that's void zones as well, guys.
The void zones.
But I mean, just don't stand in them. Yeah. Same as Force, just don't stand in them.
It's a pretty simple fight. Like a lot of them. The other thing is, once you learn what to do, like the fights are very trivial. Yeah. This fight used to be very, very hard because people didn't know what to do exactly.
Yeah, same. I feel that's all of Karazhan, really. For the later half, at least, the ones that actually need some thinking is once you have the entire raid that actually knows the strategy, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of knowing the mechanics. I think the challenge for a lot of pugs was that it was trying to get a pug coordinated to go learn the mechanics, and a lot of that just didn't know what was going on with the beams.
Yeah, or at least one person to know, right? Because it's a little complicated, but overall, it's not a difficult fight.
But yeah. So that is Karazhan. We can go over Gruul really quickly since I have it open. Gruul is really straightforward. Oh, I guess does the ads before Gruul, but do the ads before Gruul do anything really like the mini boss? I feel like he was pretty much just tank and spank once you got it figured out. Well, you're not tanking him on top of people so he doesn't like AoE people. Did you do Gruul as well? You did Gruul, right?
Yeah, I did Gruul twice. Yeah, the first fight, it's just like you have a mage tank. He has to spell steal the mage guy. The warlock one, you tank it, but then you also you make sure that you banish whatever he summons, like a fellhound, or enslave it. You can enslave it too. Then there's a guy that you have to tank with like 2 hunters or a boomkin. A boomkin actually works well because he polymorphs. You can't be next to him because the arcane explosions. So you basically just tank him with a boomkin who can't be polymorphed. If you don't have a boomkin, then you use 2 hunters, and then they kite. One of them gets polyed, the other one just has aggro. And that's all there is to the very first guy. Then he does the thing like Sartura and spins around the room. Just keep him in one spot. Try to like taunt him, make sure he doesn't move around. Yeah, so like for here, the guy all the way on the right is the one that the guy that was all the way on the right was the one that you need to.
Yeah, I can go back a sec.
Yeah.
But you can see it's. I felt like this first group was all just about like tank and healing assignments and such. And once that was figured out, because we wiped a bunch at the start when people just didn't know what was going on, and we had like the ad on top of us just fire blasting us for 5 billion damage at the same time as everything else.
Yeah, this guy, he's the one who does the arcane explosion, I believe, and also does the Nova. But wait, no, the other guy, is it the other guy?
It's the other guy, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the guy you're supposed to kill first. He's the one that just does the healing. You just interrupt it, you kill him. The warlock guy, you banish or enslave his stuff. That guy there that's being tanked by a that's being tanked by a mage. You get the spell steal or dispel, and then tank it. The guy who's doing the lightning, he's the one who polymorphs as well. You just have hunters tank him like they have right there. And then the warlock guy you kill as well. So pretty much usually the kill order is you just kill the healer, then you kill the warlock, then you kill the mage guy or this guy with range, and everybody else gets on the boss. That's pretty much all there is.
Yeah. I feel as long as the tanking assignments and such are good, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the trash you need to stack on. That's the thing that a lot of casters get wrong is the trash after this. They'll like charge and like one shot people, so you just have to stack on his ass for the trash after this. And there's like an AoE fear too, but yeah.
Oh, that you can see the banish over there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he's summoning another big one. Yeah, people are saying you can enslave them too. You can just banish them, and leave them off to the side. And this guy, yeah, eventually you get to him.
Yeah, there was a period where in some of our kills where if it wasn't tanked properly, he was whirlwinding through our entire raid and just killing half the people. So you do have to make sure he doesn't do that. Yeah, basically
Sartura.
All right. But yeah, the ads once you have them tanked, they're pretty straightforward. Now, as far as Gruul goes, I feel like there's only really one mechanic you pay attention to in Gruul. It's just the whole shadow and such.
Yeah. Gruul's mechanics are just he gains 15% damage every now and then, and it stacks up, and that's kind of the soft enrage. So as the fight goes longer and longer, you'll want to do more damage. You'll want to save heroism for, after, or bloodlust for after a point where you've been shattered. It's the growth thing that you see there. He just gains more damage permanently. He will hit the second person in melee on threat. So even if like a warlock or hunter has second threat, he just goes for the second highest melee. It's kind of like patchwork. Instead of hateful strike, it's called hurtful strike. So he strikes the second highest threat in melee range for like 8k, whatever. But he does that very, very rarely. Then he'll strike your main tank pretty heavily. The other things he does is he'll do a knockback on everybody. Ground slam, boom. Everybody goes flying back. You'll be slowed, and this slow increases over time. You need to be away from people. And then when you all become stone and then smash, you take damage based on the number of people around you. So the more people around you that are close to you, kind of like Thaddeus polarity and being opposite polarities, you take damage for that. And so a lot of people will just end up bursting and dying there. Then you go back in and you're fine to DPS. The other thing he does is reverberation. which just gives a 4-second silence on everybody in the entire raid. And that's the time where, like, as an off tank, I would intervene my main tank and take like an 8k hit for him, because you need to make sure that you have at least hots on him during that time. I didn't have like a DBM timer for it or anything, so it seemed pretty random when he would do it. So yeah, you just need to make sure that you do it during that time. You find a way to save the tank or make sure that he doesn't die. Intervene will take a single hit, so you're usually good for at least one. Especially if you're third tank. If you're third tank or just like a warrior or something that's not the off tank, because you see, I think it's Phil West right here is the off tank. So like, yeah, if you have like another warrior, then you'd be able to do it. But otherwise, no. So yeah, you just intervene. You make sure that you. There's reverberation. I think reverberation just went out, right? Yeah, it went out a second ago before that.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's the only other thing. Improved concentration aura reduces the time of silences, so that helps too for if you're in a caster group. But otherwise, yeah, it's very, very straightforward. The only thing to watch out for is later in the fight, if it's dragging on, you don't have good DPS, that you he'll like one shot your tank because he's just used grow too many times.
Yeah, the hunters love this fight, by the way. They just stand in one spot and just destroy him the entire time while everyone else runs around.
Yeah, we stacked warlocks in our run, and like 3 or 4 warlocks did 2k DPS. So warlocks like other warlocks a lot, because Imp Shadow Bolt.
Not the best melee fight since you're running in and out a bunch. As far as like this you can see, I keep getting a message. There's rocks falling. There's cave in. The cave in is I believe it's 8 radius, something like that. 8 yard radius. But it doesn't really do that much damage, because there was a few times where I was trying to see where the cave in was and like the graphics weren't super clear and I was getting hit. But as long as you move to the other side, usually of Gruul, when you get under the cave in, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I actually would stand in it as a warrior and just use Zerker Rage, because it was free rage and it didn't hit that hard. And there's not much healing going on this fight anyway. So I was just doing it for extra rage.
Oh, kind of like how you stand in the fire on in MC.
Yeah. There was no real reason to move out of it. It didn't hit very hard.
But yeah, you can if you do have snare breaking abilities like improved sprint, Rose can cloak as well. You can break out of the slow, and then you don't get shattered in the same way as everyone else. But you still you still do need to keep your distance, because you shatter everyone else around you if you stand too close. So you still do have to watch your range on everyone else there.
Yeah, it's still people around you. So.
Someone's in chat is asking, shouldn't rogues apply exposed armor? They should, unless you're in a streamer raid with 4 other rogue streamers and no one wants to be the exposed armor rogue. So yeah, in this case, apparently no one applies the exposed armor. But yeah, so I think those are the bosses. We can go back to this now. And then
that's pretty much all, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all the bosses so far. And then we're gonna do Mag today. We'll see how that is. But yeah, overall, I mean, as far as the raids go, nothing super crazy. But people have to keep in mind that phase 1 is just everyone level, get prepped. It's like a prep phase. Get people acclimatized to TBC, and then phase 2 onwards is where we actually start doing raids and other things, all the fun stuff.
It's kind of the startup, right? It's just like there's only Onyxia kind of things to do. So you'll get all of your professions in line and all that.
Really quick, did you want to talk about the blacksmith changes? Does that affect your melee comp at all?
Not really, because I mean it did confirm on the blue post, right, that it said it'll be changed later, but it doesn't really change it that much. It was just the ease of weapons, because you're still going to use the blacksmithing weapon as your main hand. You just won't use it as your offhand, right? But there's still like pretty good options up to that point, right? There's a lot of weapons. I think there was like one of a Serpent Shrine Cavern that you'll use sword wise. So I don't think it's that bad. I think there's definitely options. So it'll be disappointing, because a lot of people were looking forward to just having bis weapons immediately. But I think it's not a bad change at all. I think it's fine.
Yeah. So I was looking into it. Meiji, the same guy who runs that GitHub for all the warrior bugs and such, he was saying that supposedly it's Blizzard is targeting just OP items like this, where you can just get one item and be one and done.
Yes.
On purpose. So for people that aren't familiar with this, basically the blacksmith changes were that Drakefist Hammer got changed from one hand to main hand, which means you can't dual wield them. You can only get one of these, basically. Doesn't really affect rogues that much because if rogues do get it, they only have one anyway. But from the warrior standpoint, it does affect them, so they can't just dual wield hammers easily. But yeah, I think that's
I'm indifferent to it. Like I think it's fine. I think it's good. I think it's a good thing to actually look forward to raids and getting weapons instead of being disappointed that you have everything and then you're just going for parses and you don't get the parse or something, right?
I mean,
Like,
that's
having
an
upgrades
interesting topic as
so
well
good.
with the whole, because in classic, or phase 1 to 6, warriors didn't really pick up much, and I felt that took away sometimes from warrior gearing.
Mhm.
There were a lot of times where warriors were like, "Well, I want this item not because I really need it, but because I haven't gotten anything for like 5,000 phases now, and I deserve an item because I've been raiding and all I did is they would say that they just ranked and they got their rank gear and then they got like 2 items from MC or something, if that, and they were
So
done."
you're saying warriors. Let's talk about hunters, where hunters were like, oh, I AQ was literally nothing for them, right? Like they
Yeah.
went from phase 3 to phase 6 without really getting anything. They were like, maybe they would get something, but yeah, uh,
Yeah,
not really the case.
I remember people complaining about rogue gearing. So at least someone was complaining to me about rogue gearing because our tier 3 isn't perfectly itemized in that there's some they don't like it being so attack focused and things like that where it doesn't stack well with buffs. But then I look at the gear and think, man, we rogues were really really lucky. Rogues were really lucky in that we at least we got to use all our tier every phase. We got a lot of gear every single phase. We didn't go through the pain points where like hunters and warriors where you go through entire phases and you just don't have gear. You just wear your gear from last phase.
I think that rogues were probably one of the best or most fleshed out classes at the very beginning. They didn't change very much if you looked at like the old way things were for rogues, like right at the start of vanilla. It was actually pretty similar to how they ended up. So I feel like they were probably the most fleshed out class overall. And so they didn't change much. And I think all their tier sets were like designed for them very particularly. And they didn't have multiple specs or things like that you wanted to go. So I don't think that they suffered from a lot of the same issues that other classes did, where they were like, what do we want druids to do? That kind of thing. So I think that was a good thing for rogues. And so rogues definitely felt like a very powerful class all throughout classic, vanilla.
Yeah. I mean, it made loot interesting, right? Because in sometimes like other classes would point to the rogues and be like, "Hey, you can't get that item first. You guys have been getting every item for every phase just because you can use all your tier and such." It made loot council very interesting sometimes when you were trying to say, "Well, the warrior didn't get any gear for all this time. Does that mean he gets prior on the DFT? Although it might be better for this rogue in this instance." It made some interesting and maybe some heated discussions, at least in some of my guild, when it came to assigning loot between the warriors and the rogues.
Like I know that'll be solved a little bit because of the fact that people the tokens, the tier tokens and stuff like that. And there's more like spec gear, right? So like if you wanted to be like a Fury Warrior or a Prot Warrior or anything like that, then you can at least get the tier pieces and know what you're gonna do. It's like not like the templates, that they have running around on fucking in the game. So,
well, I mean, I feel like warriors never go back to the classic warrior where you're using
bits and pieces,
different weird pieces all over the place because they didn't really itemize the way they thought warriors would itemize way back in the day. But yeah, I think we covered a lot of stuff. We got some raid testing coming up soon, so
yeah, they're pinging me already, so I'm like slightly distracted. They're like,
we should wrap up here. But yeah, thank you, Zirene, as well for another week of the podcast.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I'm excited because like as TBC's closer and closer, and we're testing more and more things. Like we have a lot more to talk about TBC related. I don't think we talked about speed running really once at all. So
hey, we did it, guys. We did it. A whole podcast without speed running.
Oh man.
All right, guys. So this is episode something. But yeah, see you guys next week. Take care.
7.